本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is Monday, September... Nope. Friday. It's Friday. It's Friday, September 26th. 27th, because we're recording this on the 26th. Really crushing this interview today. Woo! You can tell that we've done... What did I say?
Interview.
You said it.
Loving it. We just did like 10 minutes of pre-record, just like banter, and so my mind is just all the way off. It is Friday, September 27th. We got news? What's up, Patrick? You coming through with something?
The Rage 2's first expansion, Rise of the Ghost, is now available on PC, Xbox One, and
Rise of the
4.
Ghost?
I'm not playing that. Rob, we're gonna need you to get on that. I'm gonna add that to a review sheet. I'm gonna need you
Although maybe the game's core mechanic will work for me this time.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
That game came out this year.
It sure did. Welcome to
What is time?
Waypoint Radio, episode 266. Austin Walker, Patrick Klepek, Cado, Rob Zacny. We're all here. How's the week been for everybody? For me, I've lost my words. Don't get high?
Don't get hives.
Oh,
Jessica got hives.
Oh.
Jessica got hives.
Is she okay?
Gross. She's fine. I don't know. We don't know where they came from. Just all of a sudden. Well, she woke up on Tuesday, had some bumps, and I was like, oh, you know, could be a spider bite. We were running around last night at the park. It's fall. More mosquitoes are out. Like, whatever. No big deal. Well, those aren't supposed to multiply. And then
that's scary.
Yeah, so we took her in. Well, you just give her some Benadryl and stuff like that. And
is she uncomfortable? Is she like able to conceptualize?
Well, she knows it's itchy, and I'm like, well, you can itch it a little bit, but if you itch it too much, it's gonna hurt more. It's like, okay. So she got it enough, and then you give them the Benadryl so they try and sleep through, and it starts scabbing up or whatever. But I don't know what caused it. No idea. We think it was. The only thing we can think of that was introduced was the like she uses like bath paints, and then we got these different ones that smell like strawberries and stuff. And so I did a Google search. I was like, what I forget what the brand was or whatever. It was like hives, figuring like billions of kids, someone else, nothing. So either there's a conspiracy. We need a whistleblower over at Crayola to get out here and let me know about these hives. So yeah, she's fine. But yeah, they're bad. My mom used to get hives. She grew out of it, but when she was younger, if it was really cold, just break out in hives everywhere.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah. So wait, if it was like
if it was cold out, or if she was exposed to the cold, like uncovered.
Like
she
for
dress
example,
warm to keep them away.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't take much to be like exposed, and that your hands like trying to go to work in the winter someday.
Jeez.
Yeah, she said it was not fun.
That seems tough. Well,
yeah,
I'm glad your mom and your daughter are both okay in dealing with the hive situation. Congrats.
Thank you
on that. Good work. You play any fucking video games, or what do we? Is this are we talking about hives today? Anyone else have any allergies to talk about?
Sounds like that's like a Destiny thing, right?
I got the hive.
Yeah. Is that nothing yet, right? That's all still in between?
Yeah, nothing new.
Okay. This is the thing. It's like when we record on if we recorded only on Mondays, there would always be a new Destiny thing for you to talk about.
Well, yeah. We should record. No, the Friday one's better because Tuesday's the reset.
Oh, Tuesday's the reset. Okay.
Thursday, and then Thursday.
Wait, when's Zerg? I thought the weekend was a reset also.
No, Zerg.
Why are we talking to this guy about Destiny? He didn't even get the shirt.
Look.
Oh my God! What if the camera had panned down to reveal Patrick in the Destiny shirt earlier? For people who don't know,
$150 on eBay.
Yeah, when we started the call, Patrick's camera was pointed up, so we could only see the top of his head and the ceiling. And I was like, "Are you wearing a weird shirt? Like, why don't you show us your whole body?" And then it's just you're wearing a regular shirt.
I always point it up. I know that the blue light is supposed to signal it's on, but I don't fully trust it, and I'm too much of a pain in the ass to unplug it.
Yeah.
So I just tilt it up after.
You don't want to get like one of those little things
streaming.
you cover it with?
Yeah, just do one of the little, or like a piece of tape.
Piece of tape or a Post-it note?
Man, taking a piece of tape on and off, that's okay.
No. What you do is you fold it. You fold it so that the part that it's actually covering is dry, and then the other two sticky ends are on the left and right.
I'd rather just point at the ceiling. You can look and you can listen to me. Just don't look at me.
Great.
A lot of my info is out there. Like I'm already,
Thanks,
I'm
ESA.
already.
Yeah,
Shout
fair
outs.
enough. Shout outs to the ESA. Shout outs. We didn't talk about it on this podcast, I don't think, unless it was happened while I was gone. ESA put out there, or they didn't put it out, a deck, a marketing deck, a deck that they were sending around to presumably game companies, leaked, that included their new vision for E3. Did y'all see this a couple
We
weeks
heard
ago?
about that at E3, right? I remember us chatting about, like, we had
Yes,
talked to someone who had heard credibly that there was a talk of turning it into a Gamescom type thing.
Yes, that is. I definitely heard that from a couple of sources at E3, and then while we were at E3, not from E3 in the sense that like this was not ESA people leaking shit to me at E3.
That you know what?
I
If you're
mean,
gonna leak
you know-
stuff. Leak that stuff.
leak
That's
that stuff.
way better.
Come on, no, but the stuff with them turning, I think it's going to be West Hall. They're proposing turning it into like an experience center where instead of just regular booths, there are 7 experience zones where you could see celebrities playing Fortnite or whatever, and just like that's not going to do it, fam. That's not going to be the thing.
Experience pods.
They might,
Might
something like
actually
pods.
make
Was
it
there
worse.
pods?
It might make it worse. Anyway,
Did you the Q thing?
what's the Q thing?
Like when
The Q continuum?
Qtainment? Like where people are standing in
when
line,
they're in line, there will be entertainment for people in queues. Yeah, no, it's
which
bad.
is just ads.
It's bad. The other thing I'd heard at E3 was that they were going to try to change cities, because to do something as big as Gamescom, the LA Convention Center is just like not capable
just
of dealing with that. But now that this deck leaked, and that deck is like, we think we can add 10,000 more people. It's like, okay,
That's nobody.
It's nobody. Like at that point, you're not saving that convention. That's not changing the needle in any way or moving the needle in any way. Anyway, E3 behind us now. I guess almost ahead of us again. Once we get through this season, we'll get through the winter, and then it'll be E3 season yet again.
Oh, there's presumably that, if there are hardware announcements happening next year at E3, like plenty of meetings have already happened about E3 in 2020.
No, absolutely.
What was the part of that deck where they're talking about like E3 and social good?
Oh my god, that's right.
That was the worst
And-
bit for sure.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal.
There's something
The
about like
notion that-
shits,
Yeah. Yes.
like fucking.
Goodwill chits. Shout out real quick to Game Daily.
let's really nail that cha sound, folks.
Mike Futter is the one who reported this out over at GameDaily.biz. Yeah, I'll just read from the Power of Social Good slide now that we're here. Research. So again, I just want to set up. This is a presentation. When I say deck, what I mean is a presentation, like a slideshow that would be presented to game companies, presumably, and potential partners for E3, etc. So yeah, the power of social good. Research shows that millennials and Gen Z are the most, quote, giving back / social good generations ever. By amplifying E3's social good brand, we can advance the industry's brand with consumers while storing positive chits for future use, e.g. policy goals, next negative video game story. Love to store positive chits. Truly a game industry in which we are now storing positive chits. One tactic we can implement is partnering with influencers, celebrities, athletes, YouTube personalities who are passionate about E3 relevant social good efforts. For example, gender equality, STEM. Imagine an NBA champion global superstar participating in an E3 Coliseum conversation and or global movie star being part of the E3 digital ticket because it included social good components. Ugh. This shit sucks. I've been on the other side of this thing where it's like me sitting with someone from commercial or sales or with Joel when Joel was here as Waypoint's publisher and being like, well, we want to do X thing. How do we convince? I want to do a thing that is good because it's good.
Right.
You need to fund that thing. Do you need me to convince someone why it's good to fund that thing? But even with all the shit that we've had to go through when trying to like get green light to do charity streams or whatever, never has it come to like, yes, we're going to store social or positive chits so that the next time something falls apart, we can point to it and be like, look though, remember when we did a STEM talk at a Coliseum?
And also, again, like this is kind of the tell, and this goes back to some of the stuff around the contact list leak.
Yeah.
Which is that these people just don't come across as even the B team, right? like writing this stuff out, not only is it cynical, but it's also pretty incompetent. Like, it reflects a pretty poor understanding of what the thing that you're trying to do even is or how it works, right? Like, if you're being that reductive, if you're being that cynical about it, and if you have this notion that like somehow in the court of public opinion, you get markers that you can call in when someone in your industry fucks up, none of these assumptions are true or accurate.
Right.
So
they never have been.
Right. So the entire thing this is premised on, this entire this is another direction we can go with E3. It's like this is a strategy document written by somebody who's seen successful companies execute things like this. Don't really know what they executed or how they did it, but sure would like to do some of that. And that's what the slides are.
The big confusion here is that they're looking out into an environment where they see some people being forgiven, some companies being forgiven or being held to a standard where if there's a fuck up in the industry writ large, if one individual actor in the industry fucks up, the whole industry isn't blamed for it. And they're confusing like legitimate goodwill or someone having an ethos that is like that what's the word I'm looking for, resonates with a wide audience of Gen Z and millennials like us, for someone having a transactional relationship, right? Like when I'm trying to think of an example of something that even comes under this sort of scrutiny at this point. When music, in 2019, if a musician does something shitty, no one is like, I guess fucking pop music is bad all around anymore, or rap music, right? Is maybe is a great example here, and that isn't because like Common put out some like a handful of good verses about being compassionate and technology, etc. Classic modern Common verses. It's because as a whole, writ large, we understand what hip hop is, we understand what rap culture is, and no longer look at it as like a referendum on like the morality of the people who make and consume it. And that is the long-term strategy for getting video games out of the crosshairs of kind of puritanical culture guardians. It is not that one time at E3 we held a talk on gender equality, Anyway, the ESA fucking sucks, and I'm not looking forward to whatever they pull this year. Do you know what doesn't suck? Is Cube World. I'm going to talk for 5 minutes about Cube World, and then I'm going to stop because I actually have to like still wrap my head around it. So it's in beta. Cube World's in beta. If 7 years ago,
can you like I think. There's so many people that don't.
No, yeah.
You'll just say Cube World and it won't mean anything to people. Because it has actually just become sort of a meme and a joke that even that's a small audience. So maybe set up a little bit of like why it's wild that we're here.
In 2012, footage was released, trailers were released, I think it was 2012 originally, of a game called Cube World, which had an alpha release back in that same time frame. I think I bought the alpha in 2013. It is an open world, procedurally generated, voxel-based like action RPG adventure thing, right? In 2013, it was following hot on the heels of Minecraft being at its height. It was doing a lot of stuff that Minecraft mods had been doing about giving that game more structure and turning it from just kind of a crafting experience to an adventuring experience and an exploration experience. And so Cube World like leaned all the way into that. It was being made by two people, a couple from Germany. And it looked really pretty and it had really nice music and, it had all of these kind of like markers of what would be a potentially really successful game had it released then. It was just like one of those things that felt good to run around in. There were neat things to look at. That the proc gen was pretty good at producing cool looking stuff. And then the game went quiet. It didn't get updates for a while. Every now and then, at first, like I'd say once every other month, the developer would post some update on Twitter, be like, oh, hey, look, I added, boats to the game, or I think boats were maybe in there by the time the update stopped coming. But, bit by bit, it was like, oh, here's a new skill for one of the classes. Here's a new type of biome. And then those updates became every 6 months or every year instead of every couple of weeks or months. But when I say updates, I mean a single tweet with a screenshot or like a link to a SoundCloud page.
It was in
that was like literally like, here's the new dungeon music I came up with. And like, dog, it's been 2.5 years since the update. Why are you just like loosely putting up this dungeon music?
It was in that like year gaps between tweets that I like found out about Cube World,
right?
And followed him on Twitter and turned on notifications because it's like he's not gonna tweet for another year, probably. Right?
Yeah, totally, absolutely. You know, it's just like, oh, I added quests to the game was one of the updates. It's like, okay, can we play it? What's going on?
What is happening?
I have lots of friends who turn their backs on Wale. His name is Wolfram Von Funk. But he's twitter.com/Wal, WOL_lay, LAY. I'm not talking about DC-based rapper Wale, who put out a couple of good mixtapes, and then everything since has been like, except a couple of singles. But people should go back and listen to 100 Miles and Running and the mixtape about nothing. Great work. For me, I kept
turn your back. There's nothing to turn away from.
There is. So time out. So the thing I'll say is the big thing that I have to, my relationship with this game is that I was having like a terrible year, just like a brutally bad year. I was in Ontario. This is 2013. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd hit I think it was the year of my comprehensive exams, which are just a really trying period in grad school. I felt super isolated. I wasn't able to like see my friends very often. I was like going through weird relationship stuff at the time and felt very disconnected and felt very like down. And then Cube World came out, and I also was disconnected from like online friends because I was going through this like exam shit. And so it was like even my online friends were not as readily available. I wasn't having that. It was like, especially that summer, it was just miserable. And then Cube World hit, and it was like the excuse to start playing games with my friends online again. And it was doing a lot of things that I knew I liked in games, but I hadn't quite figured out how to talk about why I liked those things yet. And so it was, you know, I spent $15 and played it for like 50 hours, you know, and I was like, wow, cool. And there's not much there. There was not that much to it, but I had a blast. I streamed it with some friends. It was a good time. And so for those 6 years, I kept the faith. Is what I'm saying, and I know that I would say like for biased reasons.
Turn your back implies a certain like kept the faith is because that is all you could have with Cube World was kept the faith.
Yeah, my supposition had always been that this was a creator who was not ready for the attention and the what's the word I'm looking for here?
Scrutiny?
Yeah. The scrutiny, like the way folks are going to
expectations, like, oh, I just made a thing.
Right. I made a cool thing.
And it's cool that some
wife.
people liked it. It's popular on Reddit for a day, and then you move on with your life. Instead, this became like a phenomenon and then a meme.
Not, position like Mojang was. He was not looking to be like that. He was not looking to have that constant back and forth. And while
you think you're ready for it, and then when it happens, like, you realize you're not.
Yeah. And so in my mind, I was like, well, look, I spent $15 on this thing, and $15 was a lot for me at the time. But I was $15. It wasn't a $60 game. I got my time with it. If it never gets an update again, that fucking sucks. But I'm not mad at him. And maybe one day he comes back and makes a game. Maybe not every game needs to have that constant back and forth that every other early access game. It was like the beginning of early access, right? It's like the start of talking about games coming out in that state, and there were certain expectations. I'll say on the other hand, I really love the way Clay does early access, which is the opposite. Constant communication, huge timelines that they lay out ahead of time to be like, here are when all the updates are going to hit. Here's our roadmap for every feature we're trying to add. I like that too. It is not me saying no one should do the roadmap thing. I think the roadmap thing is really fun and can be really fun to follow a game along like that. Cube World, I didn't mind that I got my $15 worth, and then maybe one day I'll get another update. Finally, that update has hit. Earlier this fall, Wale tweeted that it was coming this fall. It was going to hit, and that alpha players would get to continue playing for free, or not for free. They already paid it. That code would get transferred over to Steam and this new build, which he was saying was basically Cube World 2.0, which is overselling it in some ways because it's Cube World. It's basically still Cube World, but it's also underselling how radical some of the changes to like the core loop are. So that is now out in beta for quote unquote beta for anyone who has an alpha key from whatever 6 years ago. I should note at some point he also stopped taking money for this game. He stopped selling this game. The Pic Roma, which is the company that Wale and his wife Pixie own, they stopped taking money from people for this game, and so now the door is opening back up. I think the 30th is when that game actually fully releases on Steam. And I have now put 14 or 15 hours into it over the last few days. Again, giving me my $15 of 2013 money worth. But it is a really unique and weird and different thing. And now in a world where I've played way more Dragon's Dogma, in a world where I've played Breath of the Wild, I can see why it resonated with me so well to begin with. And it's leaned more in that direction. It's definitely not a perfect exploration of those ideas. It's missing a lot of what something like Breath of the Wild brought to that sort of exploration-based gameplay. But it is still scratching that itch, and being able to play that with I was playing with 4 other friends the other night. I think the cap on how many people you can play with is 10 or something.
What?
It's like a big party size. So at the very least, I was playing with 5 online.
What makes that difficulty? Does it change?
It's just it's like a very simple slider where enemies just get stronger.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is a third person open world action RPG. You pick one of 4 classes. It is rogue, warrior, wizard, and the other one ranger. They have simple abilities. It's you can play with a controller. I play with mouse and keyboard. Each class has 2 different subclasses to pick from that change a couple of what those abilities are. So you could be a water mage, and the water mages have a laser, or it depends on what weapon they use, that they heal people. The fire mages are glass cannons that do lots of DPS. And the warrior, you have a berserker and you have a guardian, right? It's very traditional fantasy action RPG, or fantasy RPG tropes or archetypes. In the old Cube world, you had an experience bar, you had a skill tree, you had all of these very traditional visions of what an RPG is. You killed low-level enemies to level up, and eventually you were high level and you were getting better drops and you were blah, 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 blah. It was like a Diablo in that sense. That has all been jettisoned for something that is way more unique and weird. And the initial reaction from that community was strong backlash. Day one was fuck this, make it the way it used to be. Why am I not getting XP from killing things anymore? And then day 2 was okay, I get what you're going for. I think that there are still some important improvements you fucking need to make. And now it's day 3 and it's thank you for fixing some of the bugs. Also, can we get different ways to put down waypoints? Because right now we can only put a star on the map, and it would be cool if we could put down a star or a circle or different symbols. That would be useful to me since this is a game about exploration. And that's kind of where I'm at. So that old system that is just the way you think about RPGs. You kill monsters, you get XP, you level up, you get skill points. Gone. Instead, it is 100% loot based, and it's really hard for the first few hours when you don't know what the fuck is going on because there's zero tutorialization. This is not a game that is here's what you do. It spits you out into a procedurally generated landmass. You're all right, what am I going to do? There are some goblins. I'm going to run over to those goblins. Maybe if they're chill NPCs, they have a blue health bar, you can talk to them and they'll be I like your name, or one of other, 90% of the canned responses are not useful to you in any way. It's
getting confusingly dumped in a world sounds like a game we'll talk about later.
Oh yeah, and what I don't like as much. The 10% of the NPCs you talk to or thereabout will be yo, I heard there's a hang glider over on this mountain, or hey, I heard there's gloves that let you climb shit without spending stamina in a crypt across the map. Or you could go to a town and find more people who will give you those sorts of quests. Hey, a gnome has been kidnapped by ogres. Can you go save that gnome? And when you do, that gnome will come back to town and can sell stuff here and increase the type of stuff you can buy, increase the value of stuff that you buy. But all the while, you are weak as shit because this game doesn't let you grind. You can't just go kill rats to get better. The only way to get better is to get gear. And the only way to get gear is through certain rare drops from enemies. Every now and then, very rarely, especially when you're first starting out, enemies will drop gear. The other way is to complete quests, which just about always give you gear, or to explore and find chests, hidden chests, stuff like bombable, walls or floors, to find crypts that you can enter, stuff like that. And that is it. And that's already a big change for an audience that was used to I kill stuff, I get stronger. For this to now be I only get a drop when I complete a quest, and to start out with the only quests I have any chance of beating are the very, very, very low level ones, of which it can be hard to find because when you start the game, it's like, all right, this is a white region, a blue region, or a green region, a blue region, a red or a purple region, and a gold one, or not region, but like a location, right? Like such and such hill or such and such, castle. Those things all have difficulties. And you could really only do the white ones, the very low level ones. And even those are hard as shit if you're not playing very carefully. And that's the only way to progress. And so I get why that initial backlash hits. Then the second wave of backlash is, let's say you've put 5 hours into this game. You've managed to beat all the white quests. You've gotten up. You've done all the blues and the greens. You got a purple under your belt. You find out that there's a rare artifact in a castle across the map. Like, all right, I'm gonna go clear out that castle. Or you kill a bunch of fucking wizards in there or whatever. Or you fight a giant eyeball because magic shit. And then you get a crown, and that crown is like plus 2% running speed. Or the one I got was like plus 3% lantern light speed or lantern light distance. Awesome. Sick. Okay, that's a cool, I guess I wear this crown and my lantern's light goes further at night. It's dark at night.
Yeah.
Sick. All right, so what do I want to do next? I'm going to zoom out the map. All right, so I have this proc gen like location. Next to it, there's like an undead land and like a cool island map area and like a desert, and maybe there's like there was the one you and I saw that was like weird fireland, Cado.
Yeah.
Let's go there. Go there, and all my stats drop to nothing. What the fuck? Why are all my stats gone? And the answer is gear. Okay, so you know how in some games you go to a place and it's like, oh, all the enemies here are stronger.
Yeah.
Cube World does the opposite, which is you leave the place you're in and all your gear drops to just baseline shit, nothing. All of your gear is region locked to the biome you get it from. So if you're in like the forest biome and you get a dope top tier sword, then you leave to go to a different place, it becomes the shittiest weapon you've ever used.
What?
Unless,
What?
and here's the fucking trick, unless it has a plus next to it, in which case it's good for every neighboring region.
Just the neighboring ones, though?
Well, while you're adventuring there, you're going to get another plus. In fact, you can theoretically get plus stuff that lasts even further. And so the gear is the leveling mechanism, and it's the most confusing and weird thing. Because no one,
I don't. None of that makes any sense.
All right, let's say you're playing. What's a?
No,
okay.
I get it.
Okay.
I understand what it's doing. I'm saying it's a shitty system.
You should. So I definitely get where that comes from.
Except it's not you're saying it somehow works.
Yeah,
like controlling progression through this.
So the one thing is that so I played a lot of Cube World when it first came out. I stopped playing because I got a golden axe or whatever. I got a gold tier, top tier weapon, and now I'm done. I'm not going to go explore another region just to see what's out there.
Put in your 20 to give you a golden axe.
and send you on your fucking way. Exactly. The thing that works about it is now the way I'm thinking about this game is not the way I would think about Breath of the Wild or a Final Fantasy game or like a traditional act or even like Destiny. In Destiny, I'm like, my progression is going to go up, 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 up. I'm going to be doing the same thing and shooting people in the head or the chest, wherever their weak point is in Destiny, for the next 30 hours. And there's going to be story content, which this game is not going to have because it's made by two people and most of it's proc gen.
Yeah.
There is story stuff, there is lore, etc., but a lot of it is also very clearly proc gen.
Seems like it's just on the margins to just sort of give you stuff to do.
It does the thing where it's like there's enough lore so that it could do a cool moment. You go, what the fuck is going on? Like in the middle of the night, one night, in game night, not real life night, I went to a
wasn't it?
Yeah, I went to a mountain that I cleared off of like a shitty necromancer, and suddenly I saw things in the sky and the moon. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I looked up and there were paratroopers coming down, and I moused over them and they said Steel Empire, and there was an airship up there. It was like fantasy Brotherhood of Steel guys paratrooping down, and I'm like, oh shit. And then the next morning there was a mana pump set up in a nearby area that was a Steel Empire thing where they were like doing Final Fantasy VII Mako reactor style fracking the earth for magic. Done. All right, cool. There's enough lore for those things to exist to be like, oh, I guess the Steel Empire does that. I'm not expecting to find great monologues in this game by anyone from that. The thing that this system does is that it turns each of these zones, which can take you between 5 and 10 hours to clear based on the time that it took me to clear this first one, as like little mini games in and of themselves, or like mini. It's almost like New Game Plus, right? It's almost like, all right, I beat Cube World. I got the crown that gives me the lantern speed, or the lantern distance. That lantern distance stays with me forever. Those artifacts that you get when you complete the zone, that lasts with you forever, ever. That's not just a plus, that's like a permanent upgrade. When you go to those other zones, it's almost like hitting New Game, or almost like hitting, like rolling a new world in Remnant, from the ashes, right? Where it's like, oh, okay, or a new game of Diablo. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go through this arc again, because the other stuff that you lose, and this is like a hard pill to swallow. You lose the hang glider, you lose the stuff that the climbing claws, you lose the boat, you lose all of your.
When you walk,
but
you
cross
literally
that
get
line?
across the line. That stuff vanishes.
Wow.
And you get all the same stuff all over again?
Different zones have had some different things. Like
so that's my
That sounds less good.
See,
so that's my thing. Is it if it's each zone was like, this zone is this zone, and the things for this zone, and sure there'd be some crossover, like a lantern you can see, but like the idea that's like
lantern
right, but arbitrarily like a thing like a climbing gloves just disappearing, and like better find the climbing gloves all over again.
Dude, the funniest one is the boat. You can transfer from one thing to another, and your boat just vanishes out from under you.
See that?
There's no fictional like reason for it. They don't even say like, oh, it's a magic boat. No, it's just gone. But then the counter though is I go into this undead place, which is dope looking. All of it looks so cool. It is voxel based, but I went to this undead place. There's a huge volcano that's like dominating half of the skyline because it's just like so perfectly positioned. I find my way past some fucking weird. All the enemies are different in these different biomes. There's all like different sets where it's pulling from different things. So I walk past like a caravan of like skeleton knights, one of whom is riding a big weird skeleton worm, which is a weird thing. And I get to a town, and in the town, I immediately get told where the climbing gloves are. I'm like, yes, awesome. I'm going to get those super early in this zone now. The last zone, they were one of the last things I got, which made exploring really hard. And so being able to get that early in that next zone felt good. And the only comparison I can make is re-rolling on like a roguelike or something, where it's like, yeah, I play a roguelike, and it reminded me of Unexplored a little bit in this way, where it's like, early on, I hope I get something key to help this next run go well. It's almost a run-based open world exploration game, or like the Link to the Past randomizer is another thing.
So if you go back, that stuff is.
You keep that stuff. That stuff doesn't vanish. If you go back to your original, that first zone, you have all that stuff still.
Okay,
you have your good gear.
Okay,
I've been doing a thing where like I go back to that main hub to clear off.
It's not like you accidentally tip a toe over and then you're like, fuck, I like fucked it all up. It's like you can come back.
Yeah, you can come back anytime to go do that other. And in fact, like I come back to do other quests to see if I get any more plus drops, for instance.
Right.
It is a very weird system, and the thing that this game has helped emphasize for me, and I'm going to write about this probably this week or early next week, is that my favorite mode to be in video games. I think I've used this analogy before, but if I haven't, have y'all seen Memento? The movie, the Chris Nolan movie, the movie about the guy who. All right, so the premise of Memento is there's a guy whose short-term memory it fails him. Right, he has long-term memory. He remembers old things. He doesn't remember new things after the point at which.
Well, he can't create long-term memory.
He can't create.
He has immediate short-term memory, but none of his new memories make their way into long-term storage.
Right. So you could like yell at me right now, Cado, and I could leave the room and be like, fuck Cado, and someone else would be like, yo, hey, how's it going? I'd be like, I'm focused on this person now. I would forget that you had just yelled at me. Mm-hmm. It tells that story backwards. It tells that story from the ending, and then each scene in between after interstitials is the next point backwards in time. And one of my favorite scenes in it is a sequence where the main character, who's played by Guy Pearce, is running through like a parking lot or a trailer park maybe, and he's like, all right, what am I doing? Because he's just come into consciousness, his new memory, he's forming a new memory. All right, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, and he sees a guy running. He's like, I'm chasing that guy. All right, I'm chasing him. And then the guy turns and pulls a gun on him. He's like, he's chasing me. That is my favorite mode to be in a video game. The reason I play video games is to be like, all right, what am I doing? All right. What is this? What is this? What is happening right now? And it is fairly rare that a game gets me in that state because of it being the job that we do. Because so often what we do is we play 10 minutes of a game and we go, oh, I get this whole game. I basically understand what hour 30 of this game is going to be because the core mechanics have set themselves up. And there are going to be narrative twists and turns if it's well written. And there might be cool abilities and wow moments I get, but I get it. playing a game like Cube World and getting 15 hours out of it before I was like, oh, I get it. I get what this is doing for real is so rewarding for me. And again, it's why I like games like Breath of the Wild and why I like games like Dragon's Dogma is like, okay, how do I deal with this thing? Mm-hmm. In any other game, immediately, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to kill a bunch of fucking rats, and eventually I'm going to kill a bunch of, like, super rats, and then I'm going to kill a bunch of rat men, and then I'm going to kill a rat god. Done. Yeah. And that's a video game. And this, I'm like, if I look at a witch, she evaporates me, dog. How do I do anything in this game?
Yeah.
And that is really rewarding. And it's not rewarding because difficulty. It's rewarding because it puts me in a state where I'm trying to solve what the gameplay designer intends for me, but not in an adventure gamey combine the cat hair with the mustache way.
Right.
In this like other mode. It's not, and for all that reason, it's like a hard game to recommend because I think, Patrick, your response of like, that sounds like it sucks is the response a lot of people will have to it. But it does put me in a mode that so few games do. And so again, $15 for it is a good price for a thing that, you know, is not like so many other things. I'm curious to see if the updates keep coming. There have been good patches so far. It releases for real on the 30th.
We should, as a sort of a coda to all of this, is that
yes,
the designer did put out a statement alongside like, hey, this is back and it's a real thing and we're near the finish line of like this new phase, was that like he admitted to a lot of anxiety and depression that was exasperated by the response to Cube World, and a lot of his stepping back was sort of like regaining himself and like finding a way to actually make this thing in a way that was healthy. And so it sounds like it was a stressful experience to have been exposed to the degree that Cube World was, and that like the way it was, discussed over so many years. It sounds like the quick success allowed him to step back and just slowly make a thing over years. Like he made a lot of money, or enough money to just quietly toil away. So it's kind of the best of both worlds, where it's like he didn't have to, you look at what happens to a developer like Ooblets and the way that would happen with like the Epic Game Store. Like when you become a Flashpoint, not everyone has the opportunity to step back because, they have to make a thing and stay visible. And so it was at least nice to see that, even if that confirmed like a pretty like understandable theory of what was happening, to one, have them come forward and validate it instead of, it would be understandable for them to not talk about it, but like it was worthwhile, I think, for them to step forward and be like, this is what I was going through and why. But also that they had the resources because of its early success to make it in a way that probably is the only reason, or like a chief reason, that it actually even got to this point. Like the alternate world where he stays in the spotlight and his partner stays in the spotlight, who knows if that game ever gets to this point.
And I think there's already been a lot of people who've come out and been like, was he really working on it for all that time? If he was working on it for 6 years, wouldn't this game be better? And it's like,
I think it seemed like, as someone that has covered this game multiple times over the years, like in the check-ins, I will say, like, at a certain point, most people had like a good humor about it. Of course, there's going to be assholes.
Yes.
I think most people were in a similar boat to you of like, at this point, it's funny. Right. And if it comes out, cool. Like, that would be interesting and a Half-Life 3-ish sort of joke. And it was like, I don't even care if it's good. It'd just be funny if this came to some sort of conclusion. But also, it's almost funnier that, like, what reward can there be that is equivalent to the occasional update where you're like, that thing still exists? And
it has been very
But I think
funny.
most people, like, and the comments to that blog post were, I haven't checked in on it since, but like, we're largely supportive. Like, we're just so happy that Cube World is back, and take the time you need. And of course, people are going to be entitled, but I do think, like, by and large, the community that stuck around all those many years were sort of like ride or die at that point.
At this point, it has been very fun to see my own friends come to this game, and like me and 4 other friends basically have played this game for that 15 hours, including there are people in that group who played the first 2 hours of it, and their response was like, "Yo, fuck this sucks." And then 12 hours, like, bring back XP, basically. And then 12 hours later, we finished that first loop. And it's like, wow, I actually feel really good. That felt really cool. We've all wrapped our heads around this experience. There is something here, and it is, because it's so weird and different, and because it had this storied history, the expectations were so all over the place. It's like, is this going to be an important game to us? Is it going to be like completely out of date in a sense? Has the world moved on from what this is? And what I think it is it's going to be a $15 game, or I bought it for $15 years ago. I actually don't know what it is on Steam right now, if it's still $15 or will be. That is pretty cool. And in some ways, like having that whole mythology and that build up deflate to like, oh yeah, there's a pretty cool game on Steam is like I said, deflating. And part of me almost wishes there had been one last delay because it would have been very funny. But I'm glad that it's going to come out, and I'm glad that people are going to get to see like, hey, this is a thing that a lot of people, but not like AAA game super success, a lot of people have cared about for years and are getting to enjoy. So Cube World, I'll probably have more to say about it next week. Maybe next week I come back and I go, I played another zone, I'm fucking done. This game sucks. But we'll see. Grids are like cubes. You could fill a grid with cubes. Rob, you've been playing Grid.
Yeah, different kind of grid. But sure.
Yeah.
I'm be honest, not in your top 10 transitions.
No,
like
I know. That was not a good one.
We're not putting that segue up in the Ring of Honor.
No, the thing is, we had a much easier. We actually had a better seg that Patrick already set up that we could have gone with, which is Overland.
We're in it. We're
in Grid
in it now.
All right, we'll come back to Overland later. Grid is a game. Here's what I know about Grid. I can actually tell you the most important thing is that you compared it to Daytona USA to me the other day.
What? Yeah.
What?
So, do you remember how the first time you encountered a Daytona USA machine and you hopped in it, it was like the most intense and convincing driving experience that you'd ever had?
Oh,
like it was
Real quick,
it was a cartoony like
what's up?
Yeah.
This is probably just a South Florida thing. Am I the only one who associates Daytona USA and Cruising USA with Walmarts?
Why?
I mean,
Literally every Walmart in my town had one at the entrance, and it's the only place I ever saw it.
I always saw Cruising USA. Like
Yeah.
the Midway games were very common at like Walmart entrance, like when you're going in between, like you go through the first entrance,
Right.
Then there's the crane games that Cado's going to spend all his time on, thinking he's going to get it because he thinks crane games are fair, and maybe this one is better than other ones. I should probably spend all my time getting money in crane games instead of just getting the normal progression of rupees. It'll let you get that bow at a time that's really useful in the arc of the game. But yeah, there would also be Cruising
It's
USA
like a challenge
machines
unto
there as well.
itself.
Yeah, okay.
You can get good at that game.
I can't believe Cube World replaced
sure.
all the progression with a crane game.
Cado, the crane game is fair. Miss, as we're
Literally,
getting ready for the
moments
podcast.
before, I had been getting them first fucking try each time I walked into that room.
Sure. Okay.
The
30 rupees a pop.
so much.
No, 10.
Daytona USA. My Daytona USA connection is that I used to work next to an arcade that was like a big open air arcade. Like it was at the back of a mall, and it was just the whole back of the mall was the arcade. It was huge.
Damn.
And I was working in the last store up next to the arcade and right next to a Daytona USA machine. So I heard the Daytona USA theme over and over and over again all day. Just that guy going Daytona over and over again, and it's
Someone did I only recognize this now because we're talking about it, but someone got that dude, the vocalist, and had him do like a live like version of it. It was like fairly recently, like in the last couple.
Was like a backing band.
No, it's just like just him
Just
like talking,
it.
singing into a mic.
Okay.
It's I will find it while Rob continues to set up Grid, and then I will tell people what
From
to
the
look
Pay
up.
Ska Tune Network to do a ska cover of the Daytona USA theme. Rob, Grid is it's a racing game.
Yeah. So it's from Codemasters,
Okay.
but Codemasters at
Have
this
they
point
always done
makes
the Grid games?
Yes, but I had forgotten this until I was looking up. I was trying to figure out what, because this is just Grid, and the previous game was Grid 2, but they decided to reboot the entire brand.
Okay.
After 2 games, they're rebooting the entire brand. But I had to look up what was the original Grid, and I'd completely forgotten that Grid was like what the Toka Race Driver series turned into.
Oh.
Yeah. So if you remember the Toka games, they were very much like racing career simulators.
Right.
And the earlier ones even had like story mode shit, right? Where you were the new hotshot driver. It was a bit like what happens at the start of F1 2019, but much of the game was like that. And it was a little more soap opera-esque, I think. But yeah, the Toka series has kind of, I think that brand's basically been sunsetted. And we got Grid a number of years ago, and that was kind of this halfway point between, and this is kind of where Codemasters has largely operated outside of the F1 series. It sort of occupies a spot between pure arcade racing and sim racing.
It's kind of where Dirt is too, right? Is that fair, or is Dirt more simmy than I'm thinking?
Dirt's evolved a lot.
Okay.
That's not, you know what I mean? The question you just asked depends on which Dirt you're talking about. I would say with like Dirt 3 and particularly Dirt Rally, they started moving more sharply in a sim direction. And I think partly that was driven by the fact that the rally racing game space they started to take over enough of it that increasingly it made sense to just become sort of the defining sim of that kind of racing rather than be the sort of sim light version of that. But Grid, anyway, was sort of halfway between sim racing and pure arcade racing. Grid 2 pulled actually more sharply in an arcade direction, and this new Grid kind of fits with that. And that's kind of where the Daytona USA thing occurred to me, because the way I remember Daytona USA is that if you took out sort of the goofy theme stuff that's happening in the background of the race as you whip around that circuit, right? You had a pretty intense and convincing feeling racing game. This was the thing that sort of stunned me when I first played that arcade cabinet ages and ages ago, is it had sort of a sense of like fighting the car and fighting for traction that I just wasn't used to from a lot of other arcade racers. Does that track with your guys' memories of Daytona?
All of those like Sega Rally, like I got the same sense.
Did
from,
that
like
one
that
literally do
Go
that
ahead.
too in the wheel?
What do you?
Or was that
like
something
if
else?
Oh, you mean like the shaking?
The
Yeah, the
shaking and
shaking.
Force
stuff.
feedback, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
It might have been the first one where I encountered force feedback, and that might be why it stands out so much for me. But this kind of feels like it is all about trying to exaggerate the most dramatic aspects of racing while still being approachable. And so an easy thing to think about is these cars want to drift really badly.
Hell
like
yeah.
if they lose traction a little bit, more punishing sim racers will throw you into a spin really quickly. Like you do not have the window you have to prevent a spin is vanishingly small.
And spinning
And you
out
have to-
in a race is like the worst thing in a video game, because you're like, all right, well, I want to fucking restart this whole race, even though I'm on lap 3. I feel like I just fucking blew it. This sucks.
Everyone just went past you.
Yeah. Or I hit
Yeah.
the rewind button and feel a little bit bad about it.
Right. What Grid seems to be tuned to do is your car begins to lose traction, and then it's just like shrieking tires, the car sort of sliding around the corner, you're constantly like feathering the throttle, fighting the wheel, and you end up like just drifting through corners at high speed, and then you feel it sort of like regain traction, the wheel sort of locks, and then you feel the bite of the tires as you're rocketing down the straight. It feels awesome. It's very Fast and the Furious. And that is what a lot of Grid is trying to get at. There are different types of racing in this game. So you have you can race like old-fashioned stock cars, not like modern NASCARs, but I'm talking about like 60s American muscle cars on kind of crude oval tracks. And those feel incredible. Like usually I'm not an oval racing kind of guy, but the speed, the danger of those cars, the ridiculous power you're sort of wrestling with, all feels really incredible. But if you want to play something a little bit more about just like pure driving technique, you can do, GT car races on European like F1 circuits, basically. And Grid tries to be a convincing enough approximation of all those different types of racing to feel good without totally making you invest kind of like racing sim levels of practice and training to access it. I roughly liked the balance it struck. I also think that they do go a little bit hard with the with the graphics effects. The other thing that Grid loves to do is really dramatic like sunset races with ridiculous like HDR bloom effects. So you're like, you turn a corner and you're racing into the sun and you just like literally can't see anything. Like you are seeing a little bit of the racetrack to the sides of you, but as far as what you are racing towards, you are just you're dimly glimpsing some silhouettes ahead of you and you can't see anything else. Something similar happens with rain, where the rain will like create weird sheens on the racing surface and you start to get dazzled. I don't know how I feel about this because it is so much more dramatic than you really ever see. It's very much like old Unreal Engine tech demo type graphics.
The thing I was literally going to say, Rob, was it sounds like you're describing what always happens when a new generation hits and developers have access to new types of visual effects for the first time. They're like, dial that shit to 11.
Ray tracing.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we go.
Next, when ray tracing really hits broad, we're going to like House of Mirrors, the game, just constant reflections all over the place, nonstop. And honestly, I can't wait.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. I'm torn about it. Like sometimes I say, "Oh, this is too much," but on the other hand, like doing a street race in Shanghai in like a driving rainstorm, and just the sheer terror of that entire race, 3 laps of constantly just having buildings sort of loom out of the squall, and realize like, oh, I've got to turn left, and just like spike the brake, throw it into like a skid. Cars are piling up behind you. The other things they've done here that are a little different. They've so another point of comparison. Do you remember the Need for Speed Shift games?
Yeah, I never got around to them, but I do remember watching footage.
I'm pretty sure we did a podcast, Robert, where you and I sat and Cado sat and talked through the entire like Need for Speed library as we were talking about the new one, trying to figure out the different arcs of the Shift games.
Right.
Because they shifted.
But if you missed that conversation, so Need for Speed began as a pure arcade racing series. No. So the Shift games were very much about trying to gamify good racing. So if you nailed each apex, like each corner, right? Like the correct entry angle, maintain the right line, the right speed through the corner, it would sort of high five you at the end of it and be like, perfect corner. And you would get like points for that. And those games did feel pretty good. Also because the racing model was probably even more dramatic than Grid's, but it was all about sort of points and achievements would sort of shower on you as you did cool racing shit.
What if Peggle had a stick shift? Basically.
Yeah, well, Grid has gone in the Peggle direction, man.
Oh boy.
Like literally Grid begins awarding you points for shifting gears.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like I'm sitting there with
hard.
I've got like I'm using the racing wheel, so it's got the sequential paddle shifters.
Of course.
And every time I like hit the shift at the right RPM for the upshift, the game is like, awesome shift. And if you do it again, it's like consecutive shifts. And like you do it a third time as you go down the straight, it's like, oh my God, ultra shift. And you get like hundreds of points for that.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds great.
Kind of is.
Like an active reload mechanic, but for shifting.
Fucking nailed that shift.
Yeah. Mega combo.
Yeah.
No, it sounds like you're playing Unreal Tournament.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, or like NBA Jam, right? This is like the NBA Jam of racing games. And it does this even when you fuck up, like, egregiously. That's the other thing, is like, so it will, if you take a corner perfectly, or you run a perfect lap, in addition to all the things for like clean corner, perfect line, perfect shift. In addition to all the points you get along the way, you'll get clean sector, perfect lap, clean lap. But
Clean faces.
but the game also likes it if you get a little bit dirty.
Ooh.
And so if you just see a corner that you are not going to make, you can't slow down in time, but instead you throw the car into a drift and use someone else's car as kind of a bounce pad to redirect.
Oh, you mean play a racing game? Yeah, got it.
Yeah. The game is like, oh shit, awesome collision. Good pass.
You know what, Rob?
Hell
you know
yeah.
what? No, because I wish the game actually said, I was like, oh, dog, you fucked up that car. Like,
Got him.
got him.
Yeah.
So, but the thing they've added to both encourage and discourage that is if you like you're driving against AI drivers, if you screw with them too hard, they become your nemesis. Ooh. And that doesn't mean
the nemesis system. Yeah, has finally come.
And all that means is like, it doesn't mean like beat your nemesis in the race. No, it's not about that. It means this AI's priority now is not winning. It is fucking you up. Yes. And so like that car where the other AI drivers like might just like rub bumpers through a corner, but will roughly like be fighting for position cleanly. Your nemesis AIs will prioritize just like smashing you into a wall.
Oh my God.
And it gets really intense when you realize that like that guy you screwed with, his car is like faster on straights than yours is. And so you can't shake him. Like he's always right there. And so you're constantly thinking, okay, how am I going to approach this corner in a way that there's no way he can just like smash me in the rear quarter panel and dump me into a spin, because they will do that. They will do that constantly. So there are moments where you end up in this like duel-like situation where you're just being hunted by someone like an AI that is just like driving a pure road rage in a Viper and will just destroy you at the first opportunity. You're trying to win a race.
Right. You're trying to win a race that is still ostensibly presented with the visual quality of a racing sim. But meanwhile, like fucking Moloch Brock, your orcish nemesis, has pulled up behind you and is flashing his lights at you. Like, love it.
Yeah.
Great.
Dude, sometimes they flash their lights.
Yeah.
Like, you're driving and you like look up and you realize someone's flickering their high beams at you really quickly. And it's like, I need to be careful how I take this corner. Because they will just screw with you. I played a multiplayer session of this, by the way. Speaking of people screwing with you, I played a multiplayer session this week. And it was fun. It was good. Somehow we had gotten preview code like 2 days before this multiplayer session. One of the people there was like level 99 in the game. I think they they had all the cars unlocked. And I looked them up. I don't think they were I don't think they got any sort of like special access different from mine. I think they just fucking love racing games. So they were cleaning house, but there was this one guy, and every race he was like causing accidents. And for the last race of the day, he was like, because he had the best connection, he decided we were like, hey, let's have him host the races. For the last race of the day, he was like, hey, let's do a 13-lap NASCAR stock car race around Indy. Full damage. And I was like, I don't know. It seems pretty ambitious given how we've been doing today. Because like we've been doing like damage off all day, which is the only reason this had worked at all, right? People were driving sloppy, they were screwing up. Like I'd barely played most of these courses, so it was all pretty new. So we needed sort of the buffer of no damage to make it fun. But for this last race, he's like, let's do full damage. Okay. Understand, I'm talking about ethics here. If you are going to say, let's play a racing game with full damage. You got to actually take that seriously.
Did he not? Did the guy who suggested it not take it seriously?
No, he changed nothing about how he approached the race. And so after 1.5 laps around Indy, I am slowing to go into turn 3, finishing a straight. And there's these crash barriers sort of arrayed along the inside of the infield. And I begin to ease off just a little bit before entering the banking for the turn. As I do that, the dude just runs up behind me, and because I'm already in a turn, he hits me at an angle in the back of my car and launches me at like 150, 160 miles an hour into a concrete barrier and takes me out. Like my car's total. There's nothing I can do. The car just completely rockets into a barrier, is destroyed. And there's like 13 laps left of this race. I was a little annoyed, but whatever, shit happens. I start watching, though, the rest of the race because I'm spectating. Mm-hmm. And the dude, in crashing into me like that, had trashed his suspension and tire. So, like, his car was sort of driving at a sideways angle because the left front was, like, broken. Okay. And he was still, like, racing people. Like, his car was going, like, 30 miles an hour, like, slower than everyone else's. He's still racing people. And he starts, like, because he can't turn, he's just kind of like swaying drunkenly around the track and starts causing more accidents. Right. And
as people probably try to like swerve to get out of his way because they don't want to fuck up their own cars. Great.
Well, people didn't even like, so the thing was he was getting lapped and people didn't realize like that he was not even in this anymore. So he's getting lapped. And he's starting to race them as they're trying to get past him to go a lap ahead on him. And he starts like fighting that. And when I started to realize that we were dealing with just a monster, really, just history's greatest monster, is when his car was so broken that like he had bounced, like he got in multiple more accidents. He'd bounced up into the top of the banking, ricocheted off that, and like almost stalled the car on the infield. And you could hear the engine like struggling to keep fire. And then he manages to get it going again and drives straight out into traffic. Yes. And like wipes out the dude in the lead.
Great. Incredible. Love to be a spoiler. Love to just be the person wrecking everyone else's day. Except the person who was in second, who I guess skirted by to victory, presumably.
That person was a robot.
Got it. Well, congrats to the robot.
Congrats to the robot. But yeah, it was like one of those things where I was like, the dude like kept being like, lol, aren't I a puckish creature of fun and whimsy, as he like fucked up again and again. And I was sitting there like, actually, you might suck. Like, you seem like a nice guy, but like, what are you doing here? Like, you can't.
I love that Rob, I love how badly this person has got under your skin. This is like a splinter in your side right now. Have you spoken to this person since? Have you pulled them aside? Have you been like, listen, that behavior is unbecoming?
No, like this person's a stranger to me. You got one chance with me like that. Like, no, this person's dead.
You have declared your nemesis, and it's this guy. Or no, it isn't. Actually,
yeah,
you're like, you've like, fuck him. You're not even my nemesis. I'm never gonna think about you.
No. Rob is the kind of person who like, I've moved on, and then just stirs about it the rest of the day. He claims that he's moved on. I'm not thinking like I'm not angry at all. I'm laughing about this while the whole time is just fucking stewing. On the fourth beer. I'm fine. This is no big deal.
Look, this was 3 days ago. I think you can tell I'm great about it right now. It's all good.
Pours another beer.
But it was also kind of interesting though, because in F1 2019, they've sort of joined this movement to create slightly curated multiplayer where the games sort of observe how you race, and depending on whether you're racing like cleanly and fairly with other competitors, you get sorted into different matches versus if you're kind of an asshole. And that's a less extreme version of what things like iRacing do, which is you can actually like sort of get yourself soft banned from real racing because you're ruining other people's experiences. Grid appears to be, which makes sense. It's an arcade game. Grid appears to be much more of a, hey, just fire up quick match and, you get thrown into a server and it has certain settings and we'll see what happens. But it was kind of a immediate reminder of like, damn, there's reasons that type of matchmaking in racing games is catching on, because racing games are a weird thing where there's only so much people can do to screw up like a shooter for their team. But racing games, like there's this huge range of interpretation of what do we mean? Like, what are we actually coming here to do? What game are we playing? Right? Like, are we playing a racing game where it's about like racecraft skill at being a racer? Or are we playing an arcade game where it's about abusing the physics and like taking advantage of like sort of the ricochet mechanics? Which game are we playing? Grid supports both. And the mismatch that happened there was what that guy meant when he said, let's turn on damage was, I want to see some awesome carnage. But what the rest of us in that session thought was like, okay, now we're doing this for real. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of funny that immediately reminded me of like, okay, yeah, this is why the solution of throwing everyone into the same bucket in racing game multiplayer is becoming kind of untenable.
Is this something that you think that you'll stick with? Because I'm curious if this style of interaction risks like you not even engaging with the multiplayer once the game is out in public. Do you know what I mean? Or is this a thing where you're like, because it is.
So right now the multiplayer felt a little crude.
Okay.
Yeah. I am hoping that there's maybe some slightly more like slightly more granular options for choosing how, like, what you are looking for when you set up multiplayer matchmaking. What we had was there were only a handful of us even who were in that multiplayer lobby system. So obviously it was going to be kind of a non-representative experience. I think the bigger problem is that Grid's fun, but I was sitting there and it doesn't hold a candle to Codemaster's other game, F1 2019, if you're looking for that kind of experience. But if you're saying, well, okay, but what if I just want a cool arcade racer? I think it ends up in kind of a weird competition with things like Forza Horizon. And
but it is not an open world. Yeah. It's not one of those things, right? Like, it is just, you're saying the racing is arcadey in the same way, or is like fires those endorphins in your brain. They're like, I hit that fucking corner so good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess to me it just doesn't feel like Grid was cool. I've kind of missed arcade racing games like this a bit, but I don't think it's been long enough between the last good one that this felt like a really welcome return to anything for me. It was kind of cool to have a game sort of strike this middle ground and not be an open world game, which, to your point, Austin, definitely has been the trend in arcade racing. But at the same time, like, I did kind of struggle to figure out. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't like inspired by it, I guess is the way I put it.
Gotcha. Well, it's a bummer that like that part of it maybe doesn't hold up, but it sounds like that the single player stuff is itself kind of a fun take on the genre, and definitely in a space that I don't get to play around in that often. Like, it's like what you just said, right? That the games that skew this way have gone open world, and that can be good. But when I think about like, I liked Forza Horizon 3 enough, but it didn't get its claws into me the way Burnout Paradise did. I really disliked Need for Speed Payback, as you might recall from my review, where I fucking just did my best to flay it alive. And so it's interesting to see, hey, well, what about just like a lap-based or point-to-point racer that is gives you those physics, gives you that feeling and that excitement, but without needing to support the structure of a big open world game, which is actually really hard to do, it turns out. Well, let me know if you keep playing it. I think we're going to take a break. When we come back,
hold on.
You got news.
I'm just going. Oh no! I just want the news is that I want to make sure I point people to the video. There's a bunch of them on YouTube, but the one that I'm speaking about is called Daytona USA Karaoke Promotional Video with Let's Go Away performance, in which it has the singer does a really funny intro and then does a live just in studio performance of the Daytona USA Let's Go Away track, and it's just
great.
It's just given these sort of off kilter vocals that track has, to watch someone just do it live is incredible. So I highly recommend it.
I'll have to look that up, and then also hope to find that people have made edits that have added live backing band music. I want to hear the Daytona USA theme with a brass band. All right, taking a break. When we come back, we have to talk about some PlayStation news stuff, talk about Overland, talk about some more games. We'll be back in a second. Patrick, can we talk about Overland?
Wait, is Ash dead?
Ash,
save it to the end. Save it to the end. Then we'll go out on that. Otherwise, we're going to go on a 25-minute tangent,
what?
Rob. I thought about No, stop. We're not looking at that
Ash,
tweet right now.
What?
We're not.
Tweet?
He's not Squall.
Is Ash dead? Wait.
Hold on.
Wait a second.
Ash, which Ash? Ketchum?
Stop. We're not. No, we're going out on that
you
tweet.
fucked up.
Not,
it's too late.
Rob, jeez. Oh, fucking Christ.
Where's the tweet?
Where?
It's in the podcast channel.
Where's the tweet?
It's in the podcast channel.
Is it
I feel
this
like
video?
I'm talking to Jessica.
It's this video.
Dad, I want to build a castle.
Some
Okay,
replies
I'm
were hidden
taking
by the
a
tweet
shit.
author. Okay. What's gonna happen? Can put this up, Cado?
Just put it up. Oh my god.
Thank you, Rob, for bringing this to our attention. This is important, it seems. 21,000 retweets here. Finally, some news is broken. This week I've been waiting for the shoe to drop, and finally we got this tweet.
It's a video of a child watching the trailer for Rise of Ghosts, the new Rage 2 expansion.
So it's a video from Minor Rodriguez, Minor with a Y, Rodriguez with two Z's. Y'all
don't know if this is his video or not.
Yeah,
no, it is. Yeah. No, it is. It is. Okay. Because he's got there is the follow-up saying that it's his nephew. Okay. So this is not just a stolen tweet. All right. Let me hold on. Let me load it.
Load it up. I'm worried about this.
Hold on. Tweets are weird to line up the video thing.
It's a pain.
Okay, I'm ready. All right, ready? Rob, you ready?
Yeah.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Didn't play for me.
Great.
You okay?
3, 2, 1.
¿Qué pasó?
Oh yeah. When I had it full it wouldn't do it. All right. 3,
What happened?
2.
The child watching the original Pokemon movie.
What
this
happened?
little boy. Buddy.
Aw.
All the Pokemon are there. It's like Super Friends.
Oh my god. Ash is okay, right?
Yeah. He doesn't know that yet, though. As of right here, Ash is fucking dead.
Doesn't look fucking good, Cado.
No, it's bad.
He's
It's
gray.
bad. Yo,
He's
I remember.
gray.
I cried at this point too. I was a kid when this fucking movie came out.
Did Ash see the other? Does Ash know what happens when
Ash
you die?
has some fucking He has deep dark knowledge that he can never talk about.
Does this ever come up?
No.
How does it not? How does
Because
it
it's just
not?
Pokemon.
Yeah, but if I died and the Pokemon brought me back, I'd write a book about it. I'd go on a book tour. You catch me on Good Morning America.
You think
Good
someone-
Morning Kanto region. I'm out here. I'm here to talk to you about where Pokemon heaven.
You'd think someone with the secrets to, the afterlife would have won a fucking league sooner than he did.
Maybe this is it though. Maybe maybe he saw the future and saw he never won.
Right.
And then it was like every time before
Or he could have. What if he's just like benevolent that way? Like I could have, but
I
you
could've
know
won
what?
At any point.
I know because I know that I could have.
Hey,
It's
what
fine.
happened to Ash's face? Is this like a new style?
Yeah, it's just the new. It's
Okay.
weird.
People don't know the cartoon, the anime. There's
It's
a new
fine. It's fine. I mean, they needed to change something about it. It's been
Well, they
running
redid
for a
the
million
movie,
years.
right? It's a redo of the first film, right? Is that what's being watched here?
No, this is the original. The redo's
it is
in
the
3D.
original? Oh.
The new one's in 3D.
Yeah, like 3D.
Okay.
That one's even weirder. Wait, you were talking about the 2D face,
I'm talking
right?
about the 2D face.
Yeah, the 2D face change is like just different style. It's like.
Did y'all
fine.
see the new face?
Did you see the 3D face?
No, show me the 3D
Yo, look up the
face.
3D face.
I'm gonna put the new 2D face in chat. I don't like it. It looks bad. Ash Ketchum 3D.
Oh no, I don't like that at all.
Right?
The 3D face is worse.
What do you mean? Where is it? What's it? Is it 3D movie?
No, what is it called?
Oh, that's not good.
It's
Actually,
not-
what happened to Pikachu there? Like
I don't know, they
nothing
both
there
look
looks
off
good.
model, yeah.
Look at
Pikachu
the look
looks
at the
closer. What's
look at the
what's
complete
like the
lack of depth between them too. Like
what's the dead Pikachu or like not the dead? You know the one that looks like an
Mimikyu.
abandoned
Yeah.
Mimic. Yeah,
Mimikyu?
it looks
Yeah.
closer to that one than.
oh, this looks terrible.
Oh, he's making a face there too. His mouth is usually not that
Is
low.
this it, Cado? Is it this
you-
image? This 3D? I don't mind this 3D. Like
Oh,
that
that's
one's all right.
Hold on though.
Pikachu's so angry.
Find one with the teeth.
okay, that's a bad. Okay,
Not
That's
sure you want
not-
to do that to your
Find one
algorithm.
with the teeth.
Yeah, I'm not sure you want to.
would I just Ash Ketchum 3D movie teeth?
I think so.
I'm just doing Ash Ketchum teeth. I'm
No.
just looking for Ash Ketchum teeth.
This is
Show
how you
them
get in
to me.
trouble. I don't want to see the teeth.
Oh, my God, I can't find it.
Pokemon teeth movie. You know what? You find this. I just
I'm
brought up
looking-
a Sonic
I'm
the
looking for
Hedgehog. We're going to talk about other stuff. You tell me when you find the teeth. You know what has teeth, Patrick? The fucking monsters of the undead or of the post-apocalypse that keep fucking killing me in Overland.
Do they have teeth or do they have spikes?
They got spikes, I guess. Some of them have spikes coming out of their mouths, though. But they are spikes. We were talking about Overland.
Yeah,
the
Overland's
latest
a
game
new,
by Finji.
Had Adam Saltzman done like a proper game since Cannibal in this?
Finji became a publisher, and so Finji, as a publisher, had put
he's
stuff out.
had his hands in a lot of things since Cannibal, but I don't know if he's actually released like
I don't know if
games since then.
either Adam or Rebecca have done anything. Let me see. I actually don't know.
And this game has been kicking around for a long time, like 4 years, I want to say. Like a lot, at least.
Because I bought it. It was like one of the first things I bought on itch, like forever ago, was like an alpha build of this. You know, I didn't know they
It
published
had a
it
much different art style a while ago. Anyway, it's Overland. Yeah, it's out on a bunch of platforms, including Apple Arcade. Sort of the release was sort of tied to Apple Arcade because Adam sort of got on the map with Cannibal, and that's sort of like what really propelled his career. That game was a huge success in the early days of the App Store. And although it didn't invent the endless runner, it certainly probably popularized it as a like mainstay on mobile games and put
Also
it in
that
the public
music.
consciousness. Huh?
Also the music.
Oh yeah, it was a great. Cannibal was, as I wrote in a piece about Apple Arcade yesterday, was like sort of cemented. Like, oh, you could reinvent genres in a way that makes sense on a touchscreen, and like that was like a clever recontextualization of like the platformer. And Overland is as far as ways you can get away from that, but is sort of a minimalist roguelike about some sort of apocalypse in which I don't know, spiky like creatures have emerged from the ground and the world is in a bad place, and Overland, you're basically trying to get from one stop to the next. Like gas is like the most important currency to get from one stop to the next. So like you'll finish a map, and then you, based on the amount of your gas, you can go to X amount of places, and you're trying to go from the East Coast to the West Coast. And it's a turn-based game on really tiny maps.
Very
Extreme,
tiny.
like like to the point where like maybe I only played one round because I finished one round and never want to play this
When
game
you say
again.
finished, you didn't.
I
beat
died.
the game.
Yeah, I made it through
okay.
like six areas
Sure.
or something like that. And then made two moves, and those moves doomed me. And it was like, okay, if that's how quickly this falls apart, I'm not sure I want to touch it again. But yeah, it's a game where like, turn-based strategy game, survival. You're scrounging for gas, for weapons, for med kits, for all sorts of other stuff. But it's hard to convey how small these like individual map spaces are. Where like some of the really early ones, and this is all I was exposed to, is I don't know what happens, an hour into a run. Like it could be 10 spaces, like 10 squares across a grid, both horizontal and vertical.
Yeah, I think it's a 10 by 10 or something like that. I think they're also very constrained maps. Your characters can only move a couple of spots, basically, with their movement.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3 squares at most.
3 if you count diagonals for sure.
Sure.
But I think 3 maybe. But they're also just filled with like debris or broken cars or dumpsters to search. Barrels on fire, buildings, and so that 10 by 10 is really constricted. And by the end of the first set of levels, the kind of like East Coast levels, you're getting a lot of enemies on screen. And it's a thing where you move all your characters, then all of the enemies move, and then you move all of your characters and all the enemies move.
And the enemies are attracted to sound. So if you kill one, and they're not, especially like the grunt type enemies, are not that difficult to like use a stick or a pipe to take out. But the moment you kill them, then like 2 more might start to spawn on the map, and it might take 2 or 3 turns for them to emerge from the ground. But it's not the sort of thing where it's like, cool, like I'll just take care of this one enemy, scout out like whatever else is here, and get out of here. Like basically, like once you enter a map, you're almost trying to exit as soon as you can.
Yes.
It's basically just like get stuff, get out. It's not about getting everything. It's about hoping luck favors you in the couple of things you choose to check out, and then ghosting as quickly as you can. Because it's just, because you could, if you spend too much time, and by too much time, I mean like a couple of minutes on a map, you could suddenly have 7 enemies, and your characters can so quickly die. They basically 2 hits?
2 hits.
Like a grunt enemy before they're out, and even a med kit will only recover like 1 of the 2 like health bars.
And using a med kit uses up one of your movements for the turn.
Yeah,
and you can't use them in between rounds, which is one of my biggest complaints. Is that as far as I could tell, in between maps, like fictionally and visually, you like camp out between locations you go to. It's like, why can't I use my mechanics toolkit to repair my car during that period? Why can't I use my med kit to heal my people during that period? It's already a very difficult game. It feels in parts like competitive Sokoban or something, the kind of push-pull puzzles, because so much of this game is about clearing space for your car to cross across the map, and to make sure that like you have all of the resources you need. And so it's a very stressful game is really what I'm saying. It's a very like tense game where every step that you make feels like you'd be fucking up. And you'd be hyper conscious about the moves you're making. And so it's like, I just wish that it gave me the opportunity, just gave me the one favor of using a med kit between levels, so that I don't have to waste a turn as soon as I start the next level. And maybe that's betraying some of like the ethos of the game in some way. But let me give me this one little tiny thing. There's a lot that
it's so punishing. I mean, like the map on which I died, where it would have gotten me to like the next slate of levels, was like, oh, you take your car to this area, and there's a like a barrier in between, like getting the car to the other side. Sure, seems like that car could just drive through it, but for whatever reason, it seems like I need to hit it with some objects in order to like break it and like get the car around. And every time I hit it, it caused noise, more enemies, and it just seemed like I was doomed from the start. Reading some like reviews where people have spent like more hours with this game, like the like larger critical analysis is that you can have runs where it's just the numbers are against you.
Yes.
Like maybe there's a path through, but actually what a lot of people resorted to is just quit, re-roll, try to get a favorable outcome, and then see how far you can get. I found the oppressiveness of the difficulty, the lack of ability to respond to like getting pushed into a corner, in which like, no, you're just in the corner. Like it's just over. Like in that map where I was trying to get the barrier out of the way, like I made 2 moves where it was like, that's it. Like there's no get like sacrifice one person. Like it's just, I'm surrounded by 6 enemies. That's it. And there, you can't undo a move like you can't, to the extent that if you move a character to a space, you can undo before you like commit to the end of the turn. But that's all the leeway the game gives you. And I like playing stressful games. I'm okay with games that have like an incredible amount of difficulty and that is built around them. But I found I wasn't getting enough out of Overland. And obviously I'm saying you played more runs than I did. I only played 1, but it was like the 1 run was like, I got so little out of it that I was like, I'm good. Like there are so many things to play that I don't need, I'm not even interested in seeing what more I could get out of it.
It is, yeah. It's frustrating. I think it's like a great look. I think like its vision, it's like version of these kind of like post-apocalyptic dioramas that you're able to like zoom around. There's a cool little photo mode that you could bring to it too, and like you can get some cool shots. Like it's. I like the character design. I like the enemy design and stuff like that. But I to your point about the oppressiveness, I kept getting into these spirals where the game would neither kill me nor let me progress. The thing that ends up happening is your car can get damaged. So like you can try to drive through some of those barricades. Your car has 2 hit points also, and after that it will blow up. And so I was doing this thing where I was like getting out of the car, running to the end of the map, the exit point, at which point it will put you on a new map with all your characters, and you'll need to get a car, fuel the car, and then escape. But it's like the middle of the night, and the darkness is brutal in this game, where you can't see more than a couple spots in front of you unless you have a flashlight or what do you call it, a flare.
Or you find a generator.
Yes.
And like I remember I found one generator, turned the generator on, the generator makes noise, alerts enemies, and then also my generator started breaking down and exploding.
Yep.
And I was like, cool. All right, well, this is all terrible.
Like,
time to get out of here,
like
I guess.
I like difficult games. I would be happy with this game. It's like, it's all about trade-offs that you make. But one, there's not a lot of transparency in what those trade-offs are. It's not like you turned on the
There's no tutorial in this game either.
Yeah.
Like the game just dumps you in. And I was like, did I miss, like I exited the game and I was like, oh, I must have missed something. Like, I don't even know how to interact with things in this game. And it's like, nah. So like the fact that you could drive through that barrier, I didn't even know that. Probably what I was supposed to do in that area was not get out and try and hit the barrier. It was probably I was supposed to drive through, sacrifice the hit point of the car, and leave.
I think the thing is, Patrick, I think the way it works is you can ram the barrier, which will destroy it, but stop the car, which means, and this has happened to me, it leaves you open to attack if there's an enemy nearby. Like it is four-dimensional chess in the sense of like you need to guess what the enemy. It's not Into the Breach, right? It's not Slay the Spire. You have no idea what the enemies are going to do outside of they're attracted to sound, and if they see you, they're going to try to come and kill you. They're not like, it's not like they only respond to sound. They will like rush you down and kill you. And so I kept getting to these points where I was like bouncing from map to map. The other thing is when you escape the map on foot, that does not advance you to the next like zone or the next time. So I was like stuck in the middle of the night going from map to map to map, never able to get a car.
Terrible.
And it's just like fucking kill me. Like by the end of that run, I was for real just skipping turns. Just like, all right, just come fucking kill me. Just like they're never going to be able to catch up to me as I bounce from thing to thing, but I'm never going to have the time to find a gas can, fill this car, get my people into the car and get them out. And it was just miserable in this way that I want a game to push me to that point, and then for me to like pull the plane up just before I crash, right? Like roguelikes can do that really well, where they're like, oh my God, I'm down to my last potion, or I'm down to like some unknown item. I have found this weird scroll I'm going to read. Who knows?
Or you tried a big gambit. You're like, all right, here we're going to go.
Totally.
This is going to pay off.
Hail
and
Mary
it's gonna,
pass.
Yeah. Instead, it feels like you can get like 2 turns in and it's like, you're already at that point,
right?
And you have but you don't have a Hail Mary to throw, right. Like that. Like usually these games that are like resource constrained, and you can die early. It's usually because you make a really nasty strategic blunder early. But in Overland, I was constantly feeling like I don't feel like I did anything wrong and I'm already fucked in a way that didn't feel sort of like in line with where that usually happens, where like a surprise death, not something where it feels out of your control or even unfair, is part and parcel with playing these games. Yeah. But it felt like that was happening so early in the process relative to getting a little bit deeper, learning something about your characters or the game. Then you apply that to the next run. And it just, the balance of that seemed like really off for the early game, especially.
What you guys are saying reminds me a lot of like how I felt about The Flame and the Flood, which was a game I wanted to like a lot more than I did, because it had, at least to me, a similar sort of. I think there's also some aesthetic similarities between them. Like if you look up Flame and the Flood, and then this game, I think they even sort of echo each other's styles a little bit, but there were so many ways to hobble yourself in Flame and the Flood, but what was not clear was, how do I break out of the death spiral? Like, what is the thing that I do here? Yeah. What is my Hail Mary pass to escape this? Because if the best I can hope for is to sort of chunk back on a linear scale some of the progress I've lost, but then I can just get screwed and have all of that and more like lost or be put in a hole that's deeper than that, then it begins to feel like not necessarily futile, but it does begin to feel like you either have a blessed run or you don't, but it's not entirely in your hands, whether not entirely, it feels like it's hardly at all in your hands, whether or not you can pull that out.
That is definitely how this feels. Like I did probably 4 runs, maybe 5. And there was one that was just like bad from the start because of the way enemies spawned in, like 2 missions in. It was like, well, I could just get back in the car and drive and have wasted 3 fuel to get here. And that is the only way I'm going to get out of this without taking a hit on me or one of my characters or my car. Or another run where it was like, well, I immediately got a person recruit. I got a dog recruited. I got a 4th person recruited. I got a bigger car with better like resource, more inventory slots. And like, I didn't work for that. I wasn't rewarded that because, and to be clear, I'm happy with randomization in games, but there should be that balance of like, okay, I'm going to make good with the hand that was dealt to me. I'm going to do my best with what I got. And maybe there's a blessed run every now and then. You're like, yes. But the kind of average across all of these runs was so low that even the blessed tier, like the story I told before about going from screen to screen to screen in the dark, that was my blessed tier run. It still devolved to people running in the dark. And here's the other thing. If this was a game that was like, I want this game to be oppressive. I want you to feel like connect to these characters in this trying moment. Then I would want there to be more with regard to the characters in the world. So these are characters who have like a name, a factoid, maybe a skill. This character can jumpstart a car. This character can pick a lock. This one went to med school. This one's a dog. And there's not enough there to where like
this person's a dog.
This
bark,
is
bark.
Listen, that
Charles
dog
being a dog isn't a personality, Austin.
The dog can wear a hat,
and the dog can
wield
a dog.
a weapon, and you're a dog. It's a nice dog. The dog can do basically everything. The dog is great at recruiting people. 100% chance of recruiting people. The dog comes up to you and goes like, "Roar," and then you go, "Oh yeah, I guess I'm going to survive the post-apocalypse with you." Very useful dog.
Boy, has that dog got news for you.
No, you are not.
The dog is just like, I'm going to get these dumb assholes to follow me, and then I'm going to eat them when things go bad.
They're going to be asleep, and then I'm going to devour them. It's like, it doesn't do that stuff particularly well either. And so, which, real quick, I want to shout out a game called Crying Suns that I started playing this week, which is an FTL style game with the combat isn't as good. It's kind of like tactical, grid-based, real-time pause stuff where you can kind of send out squadrons of fighters. It's sort of like grim, dark FTL. It's like somewhere on the line between like ancillary justice, which I think is really good, and like the grimmest 40K shit possible. I guess it's sort of like it's very clearly pulling on Dune. Like one of the characters' last names is Idaho, so like very clearly it's pulling on that style of like the immortal emperor. And you're in charge of this giant capital ship, and that game has mysteries that I'm curious about. That game, unlike Overland, I like from the jump is like, oh shit, what's going on here? Why did all the technology shut down across the galactic empire? Like, okay, I'm in this weird compromised position because I'm working for what feels like the baddies because they're a weird intergalactic empire, but also the people who've sprouted up to fill the power vacuum are also really shitty. Okay, how can I help this crew and blah blah blah? That game also has its own problems. I don't think it's transparent enough with some of its design. I don't think that like the actual like combat challenges or exploration challenges in that game are particularly fun or challenging, or give you the thing where you, oh, I know how I would have won this next time. I've learned a lesson from this. Next time I will do XYZ. It doesn't do any of that stuff great, but unlike Overland, it does give me a world where I'm like, yo, what's going on here? I'm curious about what is behind the next, story beat. Overland just doesn't make me connect to the characters in any way. The way that even a proc gen game where it's just like the right collection of attributes can make me go like, oh, I really loved that soldier in XCOM, or I really loved it. And you know me, I'm going to fill in the gaps a little bit. This doesn't even give me enough to do that. Even me, enough to care about my soldiers in Overland. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I was really looking forward to it, and so bummed to see it come out like this. Or the other comparison to make really quick, just because I have to, is it's not that I want Overland to be XCOM. I don't want it to be a thing where you can get combat solutions every time. Invisible Ink is one of my favorite games. That is a game where you were almost always better off avoiding fights than fighting them. And I was hoping for something like that, and it's just like not quite there, especially in the shadow of Into the Breach, which is such a good single screen tactics game. Yeah.
The one last thing I'll make is so I played on Apple Arcade, and I have a last gen Apple TV, not the like 4K one. I think that came out last year, and I think this game is built in Unity, and it runs like very poorly on like the Apple TV, which makes me wonder. There's been some theories that Link's Awakening also runs on Unity, and that may be some of the explanation for some of the performance issues, because Unity historically has had, despite being like a really versatile and like excellent tool for a lot of developers, like has historically had performance problems. So just a small thing. It was like gave me some worries that it was like, well, if a game like Overland is having trouble, other games might have trouble on a device like that. So
yeah. Well, maybe that's I'm still curious to see what Finji ends up doing after this. It has such a good style. Hopefully they develop something else that has a similarly cool look and take another swing at it. They certainly have been very successful.
It's also a game that with some small tweaks and patches could probably,
I'd be happy to revisit it, honestly.
Address some of those issues.
Yeah, definitely. Cado has taken my vision of you away.
Sorry.
Why? What's going on? Did you get Ash?
I found the teeth.
You found the teeth.
I'm gonna put it in podcasts.
Okay.
Hot.
Okay.
I'm gonna look at these teeth.
Enjoy the teeth.
I don't really like that sentence.
That's
It gets worse the more I look at it.
gets worse.
My first blush, I was like, oh, that's just. But now I'm looking at it and I dislike.
Eat Pikachu?
I don't love it.
It's a little bit like haunted mannequin,
Yeah.
like a haunted dummy.
Yeah.
Like haunted dummy. Like
Like that's
a Pokemon.
That's
right?
supposed to be his mouth, but for some reason that the cavity looks flat in a way, like it's painted on or something. It's disturbing.
This is the moment where the Pokemon realized that Ash has been infected and didn't tell anyone, and he bites Pikachu, and now Pikachu's going to be a zombie, and everyone's like horrified.
Fucking the truth about the Pokerus. No one gets that reference. I'm sorry.
Ooh, good, Paul. Don't like that.
I posted an image from Dead Silence, which is an early James Wan film that is
That's Ash.
It did not review very well when it came out.
Jesus Christ.
But I think is a high quality, if you're into puppet horror, most I'm just saying, slight aside, most puppet horror these days, which is absolutely a subgenre of horror, the puppets don't move. Like they're just like Annabelle. Also, like puppet doesn't move. It's just there being spooky in the corner, and it's like move those goddamn puppets.
Yeah.
Dead Silence, good puppet movie.
I don't like puppets. I'm not a fan.
They don't move at all? Or like they only move when you don't look?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like Annabelle creepy in the corner, standing.
Chucky moved.
Turn away.
Right?
Oh yeah,
Chucky was like running around with a fucking knife.
Yeah. Some of the
So
Yeah.
is that like an aesthetic choice where like, look, the secret to good puppet horror now is it looks corny as hell when that puppet moves and like does shit. So how can you make
Yeah,
the
you need to
puppet
either
creepy?
you need to
Just-
own it.
right.
Yeah, you need to
Yeah.
either like own it where it's like kind of B movie adjacent, or like everyone just like. I mean, hey, you go watch the like Child's Play 1 and 2. Like they own it. Like they own the fact that like okay, it's a little goofy, but we're gonna like make up for it in style and like the character's sort of iconic voice. But yeah, most of the time they just say, I don't know, make a spooky demon in the corner, and the puppet's just there to sort of instigate that. But Dead Silence, pretty good movie.
Sounds all right. Did y'all watch this State of Play this week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What all was in it? Because I missed bits of it. I have a list up in front of me. Here's what I know. I know Wadham, without looking at this list. I know Wadham has a date. That's December. Right? I know Last of Us has a date, and also seems like it's fridging a lesbian, a queer woman. Great. Fantastic. Wow. What else do I know? I know there's a controller that has baby fluid.
Baby goo controller.
Don't say that phrase again.
I love it.
The Death Stranding controller or
Yeah.
Death Stranding
It's
Special
too bad
Edition.
you can't buy it separately, right? You have to buy the whole
Is it
like
it's
PS4?
It's just that color, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have fluid in it.
I mean, you could put fluid in there.
No, it wouldn't work. It would stop working as a controller.
I'm sure there's fluid that electronics can work in. That exists, right?
give someone time. They will before that
Like that.
actually comes out. They will make a knockoff that has
Or
Yeah, exactly what Cado was
you
saying.
just put it in the spots where the motor under the motors where
Right.
the rumble happens,
Right.
and you're just swirling around that liquid.
Oh, I didn't realize there was a baby in there. There's actually just the baby is in there. I don't
Wait.
like it.
What?
yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Where?
In the bottom left-hand side of the
No.
Oh wait, did they just add it?
Wait,
Is
what-
it-
They added
no,
it.
they added
They
it. That's
added
a
it.
GIF. That's a
That's a
that's
Photoshop.
an edit. That's a Photoshop. That's a shame.
I would have loved it even more.
If there was just a baby.
If
in
there's just a
there.
baby in there. No, it's just the color of, and also a thing you don't see super often anymore. The clear plastic,
Yeah,
which is nice.
like the late '90s vibes.
Yeah.
I don't like this piss controller.
Yeah, it's the color is very.
It's evocative. Before we dive into like the Last of Us stuff, which is probably worth at least a brief conversation, was there anything else worth shouting out from the
Humans?
humanity? right?
Humanity.
Which I don't know what that is.
I don't know.
Yeah, but
got-
I generally trust. So it's basically Tatsumi Mizuguchi, of Rez.
Yeah.
Him
Okay.
helping get another game published
Cool.
by it's like someone he knows. So it's like probably going to be in. It's probably going to be VR. I think they've said like it's a lot of his stuff has VR focus, and a lot of this stuff is music adjacent, or at least it'll be like aesthetically interesting. Like, the trailer doesn't tell you very much about what that is, other than it's like some sort of crowd,
Right.
like simulation experience.
Reminds
But
me of
I don't
kids.
know if Mizuguchi thought it looks cool, then I'm in.
And then there was also like a PSVR like a handful of stuff, including LA Noir PSVR thing,
Mhm.
right?
I mentioned on Twitter, I find it so fascinating. I would want to know the story behind like LA Noir. No hints, no like even semblance that they're going to revisit that world. Even though like I'd love for them to do like a linear, non-open world like sequel to LA Noir and just like build upon the parts of that game that did work. But if you go and track like LA Noir comes back every like 18 months with like a new platform. It's like we're gonna put an LA Noir on Switch. Cool. Like, what would probably sell better is like GTA 3 and like Vice City, but like we're going to put LA Noir. I just find it interesting that LA Noir is the game that constantly gets revisited from Rockstar's catalog.
How would that
despite the fact
sell?
that they have it must, so my question is is there something about the fact that it was made by Team Bondi, technically published by Rockstar, but does Take-Two have the ability to be like, yo, we're gonna put, you guys won't let us just put GTA 3 as like a trilogy bundle out on the Switch.
Right.
So we're just gonna put out LA Noire.
Yeah.
It's either like they have a secret affinity for LA Noire, or somehow Take-Two is like under less restrictive rights for some reason in an internal control. It's just weird that that's the game that constantly comes back.
It could also be that based on the platform, like the engine stuff that it was built on, it's easier to port to modern consoles than that other stuff. But
they've already put GTA 3 and stuff on
like
Android
iPad,
and
right?
iOS.
Yeah, they could do it.
It's just weird. But it's sure. Why not?
Yeah. Anything else besides Last of Us that was like big at that event?
I don't think so.
Not an event.
They didn't
It wasn't
announce the
an
Batman
event.
game. That sounds like
Right.
it's
That
gonna
was
be
the thing that I was waiting on.
I forgot that New York Comic Con is coming up.
Oh,
So
right. That makes sense.
Wait, what?
That's where that'll get announced.
The new Batman game
Oh,
that has been being like.
oh, that's next weekend.
Yes.
Oh shit.
Right.
Yes.
So Court of Owls, which is the rumor, is from the Montreal studio, the Origins, not the Rocksteady will not be developing this one.
Right. Rocksteady still theoretically working on a different thing. Which
They are. Yeah, they are.
is what
That
I've
sounds
heard
like
again
that'll
and
be
again.
something we hear about.
That'll be next gen at this point, right? That'll be
Yeah, my guess. Yeah. It'll be something we hear about next year.
yeah. Oh, a Civ 6 coming to PS4 also, which that's an okay Civilization game. What do y'all think about this Last of Us trailer? I know, like in general, the reason I ask what y'all think is because I am someone who like comes in fairly skeptical already. I know my own tastes, and so while I can be like,
Yeah, you did not care for Last of Us.
there are bits of it that I really liked. I think
Sure.
by and large that was a game where I've said this before, but like I could see the chest high cover everywhere, and it really prevented me from engaging narratively. And I also don't know if it stuck the landing in regards to whether or not it communicated. I could tell that the people who made that game felt a certain way about, for instance, Joel. I don't know that they stuck the landing on convincing players writ large that when you look at the way people talk about Joel, and also for me, I wasn't 100% sure. Yeah. Anyway, we shouldn't relitigate the Last of Us stuff.
When you say without like spoiling, when I see things like hashtag Joel was right, I'm like,
yeah, this is what the fuck I'm talking about, right? Also, yeah,
that means maybe you left a little too much ambiguity for the players on how they should probably feel about the actions that
and
Joel
I
takes
also
toward the
just
end of that
generally
game.
have bounced off of that specific style of storytelling, the kind of PlayStation prestige style that is got.
And I
lore
love
that
that
is-
shit.
Totally. So that's why
I'm.
Well, I will
I
weigh in on this thing eventually. I'm more curious,
Sure.
Patrick, for someone like you who loved that shit. I'm curious. Oh, and I will say real quick, the stuff I liked about Last of Us was like resource management. Was the stuff that I don't like in Overland. That feeling of like,
Sure.
fuck. It was very good at making me be like, how the fuck do I get out of this one?
The first half of Last of Us
Yes.
before you end up having too much stuff,
100%.
and because you just end up you do the the Resident Evil thing, like whoops, I've got 900 shotgun shells at the end, didn't use any of those. Like Last of Us in the first half, like really made you feel scrappy in a way that was like really. So it's like, hey, I'm gonna use that special item to kill one of the fungi creatures. Like, whew, that's dead, but also fuck, I don't have anything to build another. Like it did a really good job of that in the first half.
The rare game where like gun violence felt really surprising for the first few hours.
Yeah.
But again, eventually it became walking through spaces.
It gets
for
numb.
me. I got so numb to it. And then also the rare game where I like from the jump put it on the harder, like not the hardest difficulty, but the middle hard difficulty, because I knew immediately having less resources would produce that effect. Anyway, Last of Us 2 release date reveal trailer. Can you talk me through how y'all felt about it? I was like not watching it live with everybody, and so I was seeing takes come in hot and fast, and yeah.
Well, I would divide my responses like separately, which is like I feel like the concerns over like the fridging and like Ellie and her relationship to the relationship, like I feel like that's like it's tied in, but I'm also like not fully convinced it isn't all a head fake in a way that like I have trouble coming down with like really strong feelings on it quite yet, but we can talk about that part.
Yeah.
In terms of like what Last of Us 2 is relative to Last of Us, like it's another one of those. Like, if you like the deeply Hollywood influenced cinematic single player sort of thing that like Sony has made, as we've called like their house style, like it looks like another really good one of those. And I liked the gameplay, like the moment to moment of Last of Us quite a bit, especially given the fact that I think like the shooting in Uncharted is like some of like, I don't understand how people play those games. Like I've played all of them, keep thinking that like the shooting is going to feel better and it never does. And I like cannot stand the way it feels to shoot in those games. Whereas I found The Last of Us to be, I agree with you in the way that the environments communicated a little too much and kind of took you out of it. But I also found the combat to be satisfying in a way that I was able to sort of separate those two things and just enjoy what those moments were in the game, and found them to be like really gratifying. I find it disappointing that actually there's not going to be multiplayer in Last of Us 2. Yeah. Even though they'd said there was going to be, because actually the multiplayer in Last of Us 1 was like, other than the gross fatalities that like they would like issue out with new updates, like new gross ways to completely fuck up the competition. I found the stalking, stealthy nature of Last of Us single player to like be like a really interesting match for multiplayer in Last of Us. And so, yeah, I don't know. It looks like more of that. I will tell you, like, just talking to sort of like regular folk that play video games, like the reverence people have for Last of Us, like, is hard to overstate. Like, I know lots of people that don't play a ton of video games and consider like Last of Us to be like one of the best games they've ever played. Like it hits on a certain button, and the cinematic stuff that we sometimes maybe push back on and go, boy, I wish video games didn't rely so much on another medium to define how they're going to present themselves. For a lot of people, that's totally fine. They want an interactive movie, and Last of Us, I think, is a certain apex of that kind of style. I don't see anything in Last of Us 2 that suggests it's going to be anything more than just a prettier version of that. But I think for a lot of people, including for myself, once I box it away and realize it is what it is, and that scratches a certain itch, it looks like a really pretty, potentially like very good one of those.
Yeah. It is, it is one of the best looking game trailers I've seen in a long time, visually speaking, in terms of like character fidelity and all that stuff. But I think you've hit the thing that kind of has always put me off of this style, which is like, in fact, it's the same thing I said before, which is the thing I like the most about a video game is me trying to figure out what it's doing. Like, all right, what's going on here? How do I blah, 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 blah. And that's why that early combat stuff in Last of Us 1 does work for me. It's like, all right, how the fuck do I get through this thing? What's it expect of me? But narratively speaking, this style of storytelling traditionally falls flat for me because I get it so quickly. Or I like, okay, it's one of these. That doesn't mean that like you can't have great moments in it. And also it does not help that like, okay, we're going to kill the black characters off. Okay, we're going to kill off the queer love interest. And again, now with this trailer teasing that this is a revenge story. For people who haven't seen the trailer, I think about a minute in, it sets up that Dina.
I don't
know for sure.
Yeah,
Dina.
It sets up with ambiguity that Dina, who is the woman that Ellie kisses in that E3 trailer from last year,
the centerpiece of that E3 trailer.
Yes,
like, not just like, oh, cut to, hey, did you see they kissed? Like built crescendos with like, look, we developed technology to make kissing look really good between these two women.
Yes. There is violent sounds. Ellie is upset. It looks like someone has done her wrong by killing or hurting Dina. It is set up to look like she has been killed, and then the rest of this trailer is her being like, I have to go get vengeance. I have to go make this right. I have to go do this thing. And then this trailer crescendos with Joel being like, you didn't think I'd let you go do it by alone. You didn't think I'd let you do this by yourself or whatever. Because Joel is alive. Joel is still there, debunking a fan theory that Joel had died off screen, which they would never have done unless Joel was played by.
He would have been a ghost. There would have been past like he wasn't going away.
Yeah, he wasn't going away. It was like,
and yeah, man, like we were talking about this yesterday in our Slack with like the whole like Motherboard Games folks, and it was interesting to see that conversation go various places. I will say that for me, the one thing that someone pointed out, not in our chat, but on Twitter, someone brought back the interview Danielle did last year with the creative leads, which was like, I guess it was with Neil Druckmann and then one of the lead writers on the game. And in that, they had said, like, listen, yeah, we're very conscious about these things. We, of course, talk about these things, but also, you know, sometimes the genre is the genre it is, and the genre has archetypes and has you know, touchstones, and the genre does a thing, and you know that we can't say we're not going to fridge this person. We can't say we are fridging this person, but you know, genres they got them, and the conversation that we ended up having was like, okay, well, is this really, are they really going to kill this character off? If so, are they getting ahead of the fact that they do that by making everyone know out the gate? That way we know months in advance, but also it doesn't really make it any less frustrating. You know, I will say, like, as a bi guy, I'm not offended by this, but it's not surprising to me. Like, if it's just not particularly moving storytelling when you kill a character to motivate another character at the start of your story. At this point, that is not going to move me. It's not going to move me. It's also going to move me less when it is a queer character, because I expect it so often, or when it's a woman. Like, oh, wow, another story motivated by the death of a woman actually brings me out of the story most of the time, especially when it happens as like the motivating catalyst, and not like, hey, wow, I've spent seasons and seasons and seasons of a TV show with a character. The character dies of causes that are often tragic, but like are not the core motivation for where the story is going. And so to some degree, then we were like, okay, but we don't know when this happens in the story. We don't know whether this character dies in the first hour, or if this character dies in hour 10.
The trailer is like extremely disjointed in terms of,
or if the character dies at all.
Right.
But that for me still doesn't move us to a point where I'm like, if this is a head fake, like you suggested, Patrick, and I'm like, oh, gotcha. She's actually still alive. And then that feels gross in a progressive chits sort of way.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, well, are you playing games with the audience here?
it's like you're saying, like, we're aware of the trope. We're going to make you think that we're doing the bad version of this trope, but actually in the game, we're going to be self-aware that in our marketing, we were doing, you know, the stakes
right. The stakes are not the same as like, you thought you were going to play a snake, but you played as Raiden, right? People have a different type of investment here. And it's an investment that I have been critical of in some ways in the past, right? We shouldn't take scraps for feasts. Like, it sucks that we have to do this. We want representation so badly that we like cheer whenever huge corporations put like a throwaway queer character or.
But they asked for this,
right? That's what I'm saying.
They
totally
set it is one thing to just be like, the game just happens to have a queer character. The way they centered this relationship gives every expectation, and the way they talked about like the tech of like how they captured them. I mean, it's just like everything, like you knew the story then. Like there's not a world where what they showed in that first trailer and then what we're now is like, well, actually about 3/4 of the development we realized we should probably kill this girl off.
No, of course not.
Early on.
Right.
Like they knew that. And so the table setting was so meticulous. And that's the thing, like if they did that on purpose and still went in this direction, that gives you every reason to be then understandably suspicious of everything else going forward and how they would handle, because being aware of genre and then playing with tropes is absolutely like can be done well in the hands of smart, capable writers in which they guide you in a direction and do something different. That is the fun, can be the fun of choosing genre and playing in genre, is the subversion of expectations. But like that interview gives the this sort of like
let me just read from it that way.
Genre, I guess they'll give us
that way.
Go ahead.
So this is an interview with Neil Druckmann, who's the creative director of the game, and Hallie Gross, Halley. I don't know if that's Haley or Hallie, who's the co-writer of the game, and Gross immediately is like, so Danielle asked, so one thing, shout out to Danielle, one thing I think a lot of folks are concerned about is the idea of fridging, that Dina would be killed to give Ellie dramatic motivation. Danielle calling the shot from a year and a half away. I'm not asking you to spoil the story, but are you aware of the tropes given the history of queer women in film and TV, etc.? Are you aware that while writing these characters and scenarios? Are you aware of that while writing these characters and scenarios? And secondly, I imagine there's a lot of pressure on you folks to get it right. Gross says that's almost impossible to answer. And Druckmann says, I can ramble for a bit and you can take over. I'll try without spoiling anything. I will say that knowing we're in a genre that has certain tropes and a genre might just be a relationship, could be a relationship story or a zombie apocalypse, we're constantly considering tropes. Sometimes we lean into tropes when they're best for the story, and sometimes we want to subvert them in interesting ways. So I can tell you, especially with that stuff, there's a lot of conversations about not only that trope, fridging, but other tropes that come from that kind of relationship. And ultimately, what wins out is what's best for the story. So, for example, if we're going to have a lead female gay protagonist in the zombie apocalyptic genre, that means the protagonist will be in really violent situations, both that she's perpetrating and that are done to her. And sometimes there are certain tropes that might have negative connotations, but we just have to own it if that's part of the genre. Again, without spoiling who lives, who survives, because so much of the story is about the stakes of the people you care for. We're aware of it, but we're making the best decisions for the story. And Gross says, that was great. I feel he nailed it. It is so much more complex than like, this is a checkbox. In zombie movies or in zombie stories, in post-apocalyptic stories, people go through violent situations. And when a woman or a gay woman or a lesbian or a queer woman dies, that's a trope, check. It's fridging is so much more complex than that. And a trailer cannot give us the full picture of how that was deployed. Again, for me, it's like if that's 20 hours in and there was a lot of great character development ahead of time, and this is a particularly tragic moment that spurns the third act or something.
It's like
who knows?
Actually, we spent 8 hours in the village, and like you spent a lot of time with these characters.
But, but what it is being deployed as is outside of the context of sitting with the game and playing it. It is being deployed that way as marketing material.
Yeah.
With the table setting you talked about, that last time it was like, hey, raise the roof. Fuck yeah, we got a fucking lesbian kiss on screen. Woo! And now it's being like, and they took that shit away. And now you're the only one who can go make it right. And that is a fuck up, right? That in the marketing material is selling the game on that and is motivating you, the player, through that like particular trauma as if you were Ellie, right? And
if you took that bit out, does it change anything about like your reading of like if their whole thought is like, the genre is the genre. We are going to engage in this trope, but knowingly, and then, trust us. The way to do that is to not acknowledge it in the marketing. It's to let you experience it in the game where you get their full context, their full argument for why it makes sense for this story by putting it in the trailer, and especially a trailer that is deliberately misleading and void of like actual, like you don't actually know what she's up to, what she's doing, where this fits in the larger narrative of like her and her relationship with Joel. Like it's so clearly like they're trying to like give you a sense of the world without giving you any sense of what you're actually up to.
Right.
But at that point, why even play with that fire? Just leave it out. Like if that's what happens in the game, let it happen in the game where you experience it in the full context of the story. And, marketing departments do things that are different than what develop, like there are complexities here, but let's also not pretend that like Naughty Dog is a studio that like is powerless in this scenario. Like they I would imagine to some degree are able to influence and give authority to how their games are presented. I will say that knowingly with reporting that Naughty Dog has an undue amount of influence over relative to other studios about how their games are presented, shown, talked about. And so that is not necessarily like
I just remember
that's not to say like
detail.
Right. And so that's not to say that like there isn't a push and pull between other departments, but Naughty Dog specifically as a studio is given a certain leeway and influence that others aren't. So it would not be surprising to me to learn that like that is there because they chose it to be there. It wasn't a marketing team being like, it would be like really good and get people talking.
Or at the very least, if that did begin with a marketing person, that they were in the conversation about how their game is being shown and could have interceded. I should note also, Naughty Dog is a company that, for me at least, still has an unresolved sexual harassment allegation that I was never happy with how that was dealt with. People might not remember this because it kind of faded away. But back in 2017, David Ballard, who was an environmental artist at Naughty Dog, said on social media that he had been sexually harassed and put in a complaint, and then after that complaint was terminated, and then on like a Sunday afternoon, Sony and Naughty Dog put out a statement being like, "Yeah, we don't have record of that complaint. That complaint we've not found any evidence of having received allegations from Mr. Ballard that he was harassed in any way," which is, and then harassment is bad. Harassment shouldn't happen. That style of like, we think it's important that we have a safe place, but no comment on like how that safety is assured, or like what, there was no like owning the possibility of it or addressing investigation, or like, we are going to investigate to make sure that this claim blah blah blah, and it has never sat right with me. And so like that is the bed on which this is growing out of, and it's like, none of that sits right with me given all of those things together. And I don't know, we'll see. That game comes out in February, right?
February 21st.
So that's not that far away. We'll see how that game actually tries to address that stuff, and how Ellie is handled in general. Like I am excited for that character to be the actual focal point of that game, or I'm happy that she is, or I hope that she is. That would be the biggest worst head fake in the world. The biggest worst head fake in the world would be, and you're playing as Joel. That is not happening. But yeah, I don't know.
Either Joel dies or Joel.
The twist is that scene's actually Joel dying, not Dina.
Right. Or Joel's like, Joel, like she finds out or gets confirmation of what Joel's decision was at the end of the game, and it does not like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
she already knows.
I think she does.
The end of that game to me was her knowing
that ending.
Right.
But again,
the ending is sort of, yeah.
But again, it turns out maybe too ambiguous. Joel is an asshole.
But I will defend the like last, like the final moments, before that game cuts to black. I actually that was actually a moment in which I think the ambiguity of that scene is like really well acted and like is well written.
Yes, she communicates.
I think it's,
I agree with you in that part.
She communicates something that I think is fairly obvious, but the ambiguity and the acting, the writing, like allows you to like sit and like squabble about it with people in a way that like good ambiguity allows. But it's everything. The hospital, there's other stuff that was like, that game should not end with #Joel was right.
No,
what are you doing?
Absolutely not.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
Before we wrap up, any other games? Rob, I know you have installed Gears Ultimate. You have 3 other things here. Do you want to shout out one of these things and talk a little bit about them? One of them is that you've installed Gears Ultimate, and I don't know if have you played any Gears yet?
And then I actually played it.
Oh, nice. What'd you think?
It's old fashioned.
Yeah.
Well. Like that's like playing it. I was like, man, this thing just kind of unfolds in the most predictable possible fashion.
2006, right?
Yeah. Right. So it's an old game.
Well, and Rob, that interview you read of mine that I did with Rod Ferguson, who's now the creative director of Gears, but came in as like a late fixer to try and turn what was essentially a tech demo into a video game. Like, it's curious to have you play that game now, having listened to Rod talk about how he basically showed up to a game that had been like tech demos for 4 years. They didn't have a story, and he had to sort of like take a bunch of parts and like try and place them from A to B to C. Because it sounds like what you're experiencing is like so many years removed from it, you see so much more of that actual skeletal structure transparently. Yeah,
like Ferguson talked a little bit about they want like a branching story and like you can go all these different ways, and he was like, that's impossible to make. That's so far beyond the scope of what we can do here. So it does feel like with that context, it is funny going back and playing like Gears Ultimate, how much of that game feels stapled together. It feels, even the cutscenes feel like they're kind of interstitial cutscenes that hold things that don't necessarily go together and give them an illusion of like narrative coherence and causal relationship, but they don't really make a lot of sense in context. Like a major character gets killed by like a locust badass commander figure, but like that sequence exists in a completely different reality from what you inhabit as a player. At no point are you really clear, like, does Marcus Phoenix know that guy just got killed by that big locust? Where did that happen? When did that happen? How did that happen? It's all kind of hand wavy. Mm-hmm. And so much of that game has that feel of, all right, we're going to do this combat sequence and go through this encounter. And then we're going to have a cutscene that doesn't just hold that scene and the next scene together, but the cutscenes often seem to unpack even the meaning of what you just played. Okay, we just showed you deploying the whatever the hell it is, the resonance MacGuffin or something like that, and all those cutscenes end up kind of, in case you didn't get it from the gameplay sequence, we're going to show you the end of what that gameplay sequence was from the narrative standpoint, and then we're going to kick off the next action sequence. It's a funny game, but nevertheless, it's also, I was in the mood for loud machine guns, chainsaws, and like grenades, and I was like, I just want like that, just pure, undiluted, just, murder bros diving into cover and just like slaughtering a bunch of locusts. That's the other thing though. The game is at its best when it's like sort of firefights between two sides running from cover to cover, right? Mm. I'm sort of stunned how much of that game is little ghoul type creatures charging you endlessly, and you just have to gun them down. It's funny because like the game is entirely about being a cover shooter, but then like two full acts of that game feel like they're entirely about, all right, you're being rushed by zombies, shoot them before they get to you. And it is the least interesting thing you can do in Gears, and Gears 1 makes you do tons of it.
I want to say like later they introduced enemies that were like the tiny ones that acted as like a bomb, where it's like that was like meant to like push you, like rather than just like sitting behind cover and just pelting over and over, they started coming up with enemy types that were meant to like, hey, like you got to get out of here else you're going to die. Like we're going to press you out of cover. Yeah.
And that I think at this point we are so programmed to identify enemies like that and sort of pick them out of the crowd and shoot them that doesn't really work. And like for me, that didn't generate much tension at all, because I was like, yep, okay, I get the drill here. That thing can't get to me or it's going to be big trouble. So the minute I see the little glowy, suicide bomber gremlin start running toward me, immediately just got to kill it. And
it's like the equivalent of the big flashing fleshy part of a boss that you have to shoot. You're seeing the origins of that stuff, because I mean, what was the game that popular that like technically like probably invented cover shooters, but was just before Gears of War?
Wow, why am I?
Anyone remember what I'm talking about?
Not Full Spectrum Warrior.
No. Fuck, what was it called? Oh, I'm gonna look it up. This is gonna
because it's sort of thing where like Gears of War popularized.
Yeah, it's definitely third person.
Yeah.
It was like a game you would have never played because it didn't do well.
Right.
Cover shooter before
Kill Switch.
Gears
Kill
of
Switch.
War.
Kill Switch.
Kill Switch. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was like an exact like type of game that doesn't get made anymore. Like that has not been made to the degree it was at this period of the early 2000s. Like B tier PS2 game. I think it was a PS2 game.
I think so too. Yeah.
PS2 and Xbox. So. Yeah. Well, Rob, welcome to Gears. Welcome to COG. Sorry.
It was funny. It's the COG is the government. The Gears are the dudes.
Right.
Your gear.
Your gear.
Fighting for COG. See, it's funny because it's like coalition of governments, but really also aren't we all like cogs and like
your gears
cogs
in the
machine?
COG. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
like
something.
It sort of works.
Yeah, it sort of does. It's what I needed on kind of a slow weeknight where I just wanted to get into some good gun battles with minimum context. But it is striking the degree to which like even the Ultimate Edition with sort of the up-res textures, etc., it's still in all the essentials feels like a very dated game. And I think it's an example of a game that just because it has been imitated so much, it does have it ages poorly because the things it does best have been pretty firmly exceeded now.
Yeah.
And so it ends up being it becomes interesting from like a history of games perspective, but it also just doesn't hold up, I don't think.
That's a shame. But also not that surprising, honestly.
Yeah.
Patrick, did you get through Gears 5? You're the one person on the staff who I think was...
I want to get back to it. It's like just other, like so many games have swamped.
I get you.
Since, but Rob, I would be super curious to see you, like now that you're playing Gears 1, just to see the fidelity jump from Gears, because I looked up some footage of like Gears Ultimate, and that game looks fine for of its era and what it was doing.
Yeah.
It was a gorgeous game at the time, but like Gears 5 is like bright and like the color spectrum of 5 is like so different and like intentionally so. Like you should just play the first like 10 minutes of like like Gears 5 just to see like how radically different like they went in terms of like they keep a lot of the tone, but just like there's green and blue and like red. Like it's I'd be curious to see what you thought of from that. I haven't played more of it, but I absolutely will go back to it because it is the kind of game where like it's also a game that is like super Hollywood, but in a different, it's Michael Bay Hollywood.
Right. Right.
And man, that's a game where it's like crack open a beer and just like watch things blow up. Like Gears 5 doesn't do anything spectacular, but like it knows what it is in a way that it's very confident about. And there's like, it's repetitive, but also like knowingly repetitive, like in a way that like I tolerate a little more than I do with like Halo 4 and 5. Like, I'll be curious to do Gears 6 because it seems like they're primed for like a open world shakeup in a way that Halo's going in. But I don't know. Like, I guess I'm more forgiving of Gears because maybe I enjoy the moment to moment of Gears more than I continue to enjoy the moment to moment of like
Halo
4 and 5.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm so curious about Halo Infinite and more so than Gears. Not that I didn't. I fell off both of those series at the same point, so I shouldn't really. I don't really have a dog in that race, but I'm more interested. I think at this point about what 343 will end up doing with like a big.
Just structurally. I just want to see.
Again, it goes back to the thing I said about Q World, which is like, oh, what is this? Whereas, I get what Gears is. I get what Gears 5 is. Like you said, Michael Bay action flick style thing, which I almost have more lenience with or more patience with than the kind of prestige style because it feels like
it's not so self-serious.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I mean, it is.
Yes.
Well, like Gears is self-serious, but in the Michael Bay way of like you're not sure if it's in on the joke, but it seems to be. Yeah. The same way, go watch Bad Boys, right? Like, and
there's plenty of Michael Bay stuff that doesn't work for me, but there is something about it that's like it's easier for me to have an okay time with something in that mode failing than something in the like take me seriously mode not living up to that. And
has anyone seen? I've never seen it, but I know people kind of hold it up as like a modern day Michael Bay masterpiece. What is it? Pain and Gain or Pain
I never
or
saw
Gain?
The Rock is a
the way people talk
always
about
looks interesting.
I hear
the way
great.
people talk about that movie is actually like the story and characters and like is like better than you would think, but it's also like, and that's what Michael Bay is at his best. Yeah. When like he stumbles upon like the Transformers movies, like just such shit scripts.
They're so
like,
bad.
If you can give
racist.
him,
yeah.
Well, there's a Transformer at a certain point that has giant testicles that are destroying the pyramids of Egypt. Like
that happens.
Those movies. But like, if you can sneak him like a good script and like dynamic actors, and then he takes care of the rest, like. Yeah, he can be like as much of like as a douche he is. Like he can produce some stuff that you're like, all right, which is I don't know. That's how I feel about like Bad Boys and stuff like that. It's like okay, sure. Yeah.
Whereas I think like a bad drama is just the hardest thing to get through sometimes when like none of it's firing or when it's predictable not in the like plot sense, but in the characterization sense. And they're like, we're going to spend 30 minutes with this person going through a turn that's like, oh, now I'm supposed to root against them because they've fallen a little bit and are starting to snipe at the people around them. And like the acting isn't compelling. And that ends up being what is harder for me to watch than like schlock. Schlock is consumable fundamentally. Anyway.
Last of Us 2 Blu-rays.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big.
Wow.
Game big.
See, on
So
one,
she dies
you're
at the
Ellie.
end of the first one.
On the other, your Joel.
God. Ooh. February for Last of Us. The more important date coming up is the weekend, which I'm now ushering everyone into. I
Damn.
hope everyone has a good weekend.
I thought you were gonna say Tuesday.
What's Tuesday? Oh, I'm sorry, Cado.
It's okay.
Is Tuesday the day?
Yeah, Tuesday's the day.
Okay.
Shit's
The
happening.
Tuesday?
The Tuesday.
The Tuesday. The
Happy
Tuesday's the
Tuesday,
day.
everybody. the DE stands for Destiny.
Yeah.
That's what the due's name is. Destiny's Due.
Whoa.
Welcome to Cado's holiday. Destiny will be here around the corner. You can watch
Destiny
Cado
Day.
play that on Destiny Day, which is what's the actual date?
October 1st.
October 1st.
Yeah.
October 1st.
That's what D-Day means now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, honestly, there's
Finish the fight.
the footage. There was like an influencer thing, and footage came out, and it looks like the first.
They didn't invite you?
mission.
Oh, you didn't get the shirt.
No, I didn't get the shirt.
So you didn't get the invite.
Yeah, I didn't
What's the first mission?
It looks like there's like a big old red keep that they keep showing in like a bunch of key art, and like you're
Is that the Shadowkeep?
I don't know, is it?
It's probably the Shadowkeep.
I actually don't think it's a shadow keep. I think it's a red herring. It's red.
Is that it's called the red? Okay, yeah, I got it. Hey, Rob. Rob is in tears.
Rob is dying.
Just Cado, like, oh damn, there's a keep that they showed in the trailer.
No.
I don't know what that's all about.
I know what it's about. I'm just saying.
what do you-
Let me
what do you
finish
think
my
that
Cado
means?
has read the fictions. Cado is up to date.
Yeah, no, it just looked cool because it's like you're assaulting it and you're in a bunch of tanks.
It's
and
like a
there's-
D-Day thing.
Yeah,
is
exactly.
you're
That's
saying.
what I was
It's
bringing
an
it up.
assault. It's like a
Yeah.
got you.
It looks neat.
Cool.
Interested.
Tuesday. By
Tuesday.
the time the next podcast, you still will not have played this game.
Nope.
Honestly, look, I got to talk about Cube World for like 30 minutes today.
Yeah.
I'm with you, fam. Like you deserve this to be so good. I'm
I hope
rooting
it
for
is. I hope it is.
you. I hope we get code a day early, just so that you can go play. I really.
No, I
do.
mean it's all server based.
I know, but whatever.
That'd be great.
That'd be great. We'll see. Crossing my fingers for you. Everybody else, you have more important stuff to do, like go hang out and chill this weekend.
Yeah.
I hope everyone has a good weekend. You can follow everything we do, waypointadvice.com. I want to shout out AVB's incredible Code Vein review, which is a very fun read and a very fun edit. Code Vein is out tomorrow also. None of us have played it. We got one code and we sent it to AV because I needed the person who wrote the definitive 7 out of 10s are good actually to write a game about anime Dark Souls, and so we did that.
If I'm more inclined to go back to a game from this year that's a Souls adjacent, I might be more inclined to go back and play Code Vein than I would be Remnant.
Remnant's so good, though.
What about the Surge?
Oh yeah, did you play any of that yet?
No, I've heard it's it's good. Like,
Okay,
really good.
Good. I'm curious about it. There's so many this year. That's the actual thing.
Yeah.
Right? Is that now what we have is like, it is not just a style, it's a genre in a real way when
Yeah.
you could point to like 4 or 5 games in a single year that are trying to do the damn thing.
Yeah, it used to be. It's like cool. Like I'm in that in between period of From Software stuff. I just need a hit. Now it's like no, there's like 7 of them.
Yeah, and they're distinct, which is cool.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
I really gotta play more Remnant. I really like Remnant.
Still haven't beat that first boss.
Waypoint.vice.com for that review of Code Vein. Twitter.com/waypoint for everything else. Cado, where can people find you?
Probably on Covalent this weekend.
What was that?
Probably on Covalent this weekend.
What
Covalent Island?
is that? What is that?
It's from
Oh, that's from Zelda. That's the name
Yeah.
of the Zelda. That's the
Yeah.
Link's Awakening place.
from-
Nailed it. That was a
Trying to
good joke,
finish.
Cado.
It's not a joke. It's just where I'm gonna be.
Okay. Good luck. I hope the train
Truthfully.
game goes well for you. I know you're having some trouble with that. I hope you get the bow.
God damn it.
Patrick, how about you? Where are you going to be this
Hey,
weekend?
I'm not a fucking thief. Never in my life. That's not true, actually. Actually, I'm gonna go
Don't
steal that
admit to
bow after
anything.
this.
After all that, no, you've already invested so much into earning it.
I'm sure there's something else to use those rubies on.
There's not.
Nope. There's not. Absolutely not. Unless you want to collect statues for no reason.
Oh, wait, the figures? Those are cute.
Yeah, they
Patrick.
don't do anything.
They
Patrick Klepper.
sit there
But
and
you know
look
what?
good, like statues.
Why?
do.
What do you mean? What do I mean? They don't do anything. Cado, the king of doing things in games that don't amount to anything.
Okay, let Cado live.
What?
It's nice to have figurines
Yeah.
sometimes. They're cool.
Figurines are nice. Also, you're doing something nice for
Buying
these people. You're putting figurines in
Buying
their house.
amiibo.
They have this. They aspire to have these figures. They've put stands up.
They aspire.
in their.
They aspire to have these. Cado, I'm doing my best as your advocate here, but you're not
It's
giving me enough to
true.
work with.
It's true. They put the bases out that have the names of the figures they want, and then you have to go get them for them.
Is it like a Santa Claus type situation?
You just put them there. I don't think anything happens if you get them all, but it's nice.
No, I'm just saying. Is that like the way that they wish for things? They
Right,
put out a
right. They put
pedestal,
out a little.
and they go, "I would like an Xbox, please." It says that on a little thing.
Yeah.
That's Jessica's going to start doing that to you soon, Patrick. You're going to wake up one day and
Yeah.
there's just going to be the bottom of a trophy, like a trophy stand. At the bottom of it, it's just going to say PS5, please.
Let's just say please. It just says PS5.
PS5,
This is where
yeah.
it goes.
Yeah.
I was just suggesting that maybe Patrick had raised his daughter to be more polite than the villagers of Coquitlam Island.
She's usually, well, if you give her a chocolate, then maybe you'll get a thank you. Outside of that, good luck.
Rob, what are you up to this weekend? Where can people find you?
You can find me at Rob Zacny on Twitter. I'm probably going to the beach.
Ooh,
whoa.
This is it. This is
the last one.
The last one.
Rob, yeah, it's like, the
last
fall has kicked in. Rob Zacny, time to go to the beach.
Fall beach is good. Autumn beach. Let me tell you about the autumn beach.
See, you gotta wait till the cold weather's broken people's spirits,
Yeah.
and they're like, "This isn't a good day to go to the beach." And then I'm like, "Oh, you mean it's Rob Zacny private beach season?"
Great album.
Cado, that's the title of the podcast.
Rob Zacny's private beach season. People will be so curious. What did Rob play that brought him to the beach? Oh, nothing. Just the game of life, and better than you were playing it. Well, congrats, Rob. I really love it. I really do.
He's gonna go there and not at all think about that player from Grid because he's over it and he's fine.
Let him go. Let him go meditate.
Don't even
through
know what you're talking about.
it. God. The whistleblower is said to be a CIA officer who was assigned to work at the White House. His complaint suggests he is a trained analyst. It's breaking. Listen, it's been so hard to do anything this week.
Jack Ryan is real.
Oh my God. I can't believe this has all been promotion for the Amazon Jack Ryan show.
Venezuela didn't work out, so now he's got to topple a different government.
Oh God. I'm at Austin_Walker. Thank you to Bowen for letting us use the track Miss You off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that at waypoint.zone/BOEN. We'll be back next week with more. Until then, peace.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi.
Hi, Patrick Ceiling.
Oh, yeah, Patrick, your camera is.
I know.
It's always funny.
He's going to pan down and be wearing a shirt that's funny.
You know, one of these days that'd be a good bit.
Yeah.
That would require me to plan in advance.
Yeah.
If/when we do this as a video podcast again,
Great bit.
that would be a great bit.
I have my doubts.
I don't know. They did demo in those rooms. There's shit being done over there.
Oh, I fully believe you that people will do video podcasts, Cado. I have been here for 3 years. I've been told things.
Today, we're
don't know, I feel like we're
past your 3 year now. Your 3 year was August, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that's just free money in Link's Awakening?
What?
I've spent like 30 minutes just playing the crane game and getting the 50 rupee thing for 10 rupees.
Nice.
There's nothing to spend money on
Good
in
job.
that game.
Yeah.
Cado.
I'm gonna buy the bow.
Oh, well, okay. You don't. It's not. Okay. It's not even useful in the game, really.
I'm actually in a dungeon in a room where I was like, oh, if I had the bow, this would be nothing.
This is the teleporty guys.
Yeah.
You can throw things at them.
There's nothing to throw in that room.
You could bring something, can't you?
I could buy some bombs, but I'm
Buy
like,
some
fuck
bombs.
it. I can
in
get free
fact,
money.
The way you do it is you set up a bomb,
not sure.
and then you go
Cado,
chase
you're
them.
spending-
The bomb.
They go.
You're spending time.
Yeah, you just-
doing
I
a
watched someone
shitty
do it
mini
last
game.
week.
So you're spending something.
Yeah.
Don't act like this is
Yeah,
free.
it's not free.
You're playing a terrible
Yeah.
mini game.
I like this
over
mini
and
game.
over. It's awful.
It's a
bad.
good crane game
No, it is not.
because
Well,
you can
sure,
actually
'cause
win it.
Crane games are bullshit. So
Yeah.
I guess
Exactly. This one works.
Okay.
I'm at 700. I just need 300 more.
Oh my god!
Easy.
Just
You need
if you just played the
340
game,
more
you
because
would
you're
just-
gonna have to spend.
I finished that game with
Yeah.
like 3,000 rupees and nothing to spend it on.
Well, maybe at the end of the game. Right now, I'm poor.
Okay.
Gotta spend money to make money. Fuck, it just fell out of the hook.
Great.
Yes, I have to play again.
What was that noise? Did you miss it?
Fuck!
Oh wow, interesting. You
Twice
missed it.
in a row.
You missed it in the bad mini game.
No!
Twice in a row.
Better to spend your time doing that instead of just like naturally playing the game and picking up the rupees that drop along the way.
Fuck.
Dude, go-
Oh, no!
How much are bombs?
No!
What hap-
Fuck.
What happened? That's bigger than the normal. Fuck.
So it's one of those you push in a direction and then it stops.
Yeah, a crane game.
I didn't realize, and it's like X to go forward, A to go left.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I mean some crane games are like you can move wherever.
Sure, but
Yeah. I didn't realize that the directional buttons on the left Joy-Con also work,
Mm.
and I accidentally tapped the up one and it just moved a
10.
little, and I couldn't move up anymore.
Oh wow, Trey interviewed Korn.
Yeah,
I missed this.
that was like a bit ago.
It was on the 23rd. 3
What,
days.
really?
Is when the
Oh,
video
maybe
was
it didn't get
posted.
released. I
Yeah.
saw him post a picture about that a while back.
Shout outs to Trey.
Yeah. I actually pulled out my Switch to buy the Goose Game because Christina's back.
Hmm.
I was in the middle of picking up this purple thing, though. Gesundheit.
Excuse me. Check. This is Cado. Can you talk for a second?
Yeah, what? Oh.
I think have you hit something? What is happening?
Are you missing left ear?
Yeah, I'm missing left ear. This
I'm
is
missing left ear, too. That's not good.
Rob or Cado, Rob or Patrick, could you talk for a second?
Yeah, you
here I
sound
am.
fine to us.
What's up?
What the fuck is happening, Cado?
Check.
Is it your mic?
No. Is it? Hold on.
Is it my headphones? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.
It's definitely mine.
It's on. Oh, so you're hearing me in both ears.
Yeah,
But you noticed it as soon as I spoke before.
Yeah, but I'm hearing you in both ears.
I am wait, you speak?
No, I see it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely not hearing you.
I don't know how that happened.
Okay.
Boop. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I am never going to play this game or learn anything about it, but I do love that I get like 3 emails a day about a game called Hell of Men.
Great.
My suspicion is it's not a visual novel about being a woman online.
No, you don't think that's
No.
Rob, you
great?
should write back to that person who wrote in that email and say, "Well, we're floating this new podcast title called 3 Men and a Cado. What do you think about that?"
How do you feel? God.
He's just a little baby. Look who's producing now.
Oh
I
man.
watched those movies when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, of course.
There's a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
Look Who's Talking Too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but only the first one was good.
Right, but the actor stuck around for at least the second one, right? And then
There's
as it became
dogs
like
in the third one?
Right. It was
Look
like
Who's-
then the dog is talking, and
Is that Look
yeah,
Who's
it's bad.
Talking Now?
No, that's
bad
Nuku's Talking
thing.
Now is just a sequel, right?
It's just 2.
I think it's just 2. Look Who's Talking.
two.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
two's
sorry.
another baby.
2, you're right. You're right. Now is
Everyone
Is
sticks
the-
around.
Yeah, now is animals.
My guess is Look Who's Talking 2
Travolta-
came out in theaters, and then Look Who's Talking Now is like the straight to
No,
VHS.
Travolta
No?
and Kirstie Alley both in the
Stuck
third one.
around?
Stuck around.
Oh my god!
And whoa, this is wow. Unlike previous films, it does not feature the voiceover talents of Bruce Willis, Roseanne Barr, Damon Wayans, Joan Rivers, or Mel
They
Brooks.
got out.
Rather, Danny DeVito and Diane Keaton
Yeah.
provide voiceover roles for their newly acquired dogs.
I think that's an upgrade.
That's an
I
upgrade.
think that's an upgrade.
That's not bad.
Hey,
Charles Barkley is in this movie. Charles Barkley is in this movie. Heads up, he's in this
I
movie
just saw
as
you as a
himself.
cameo. As what?
Himself.
That baby right through a window.
Wait, he's not a dog?
Don Rickles does the voice of a wolf.
It's right there. Charles
No,
Barkley.
no, he
Come
doesn't,
on.
He doesn't play a dog. I don't think Charles Barkley would ever lower himself to the level of a dog. God.
There was also a sequel to 3 Men and a Baby, right? Yeah. 3 Men and a Little Lady.
Yeah, there you go.
Did you watch this Adam Sandler trailer with Kevin Garnett?
I did.
That movie looks great. I don't know what that movie is.
That movie looks great.
Yeah, hold on. What the fuck? It was like
I love that he's selling
it's
lab
like
diamonds.
Gem Heist or something like that.
I don't know. Katie and I watched it and looked at each other like, I don't know what the plot of this movie is, but Adam Sandler is
think-
chewing scenery and Kevin Garnett, sure.
I think
Why not?
he's like
Uncut Gems.
I think he's like a jeweler. He's like a jeweler because there's a bit where he's showing off
Who has a gambling problem.
who has a
right?
gambling
Yeah.
problem and who's
He's like,
in too deep, and
He's trying to keep.
right, yeah, yes. I think it's just like, the mob is coming for him or whatever. And also he's cheating on his girlfriend or his wife or both. Probably both. Let's say both. I just love that he has one of my favorite things, which is I spent a lot of the 2010s watching videos on YouTube of really bad like synthetic diamond jewelry being shown off by the people who make it. And he shows off like a Furby that has been covered in lab diamonds in this trailer, and it's very funny to me.
Yes.
It's so fucking good.
Oh wow, he's just channeling Totoro.
Yeah. I saw someone.
I think that's why I'm identifying with this so strongly. Is
Yeah.
He's got that uneasy energy that Totoro has.
Mhm. I can see that.